because I don't even necessarily think Pittsburgh would have been expecting that. I do not think that the Knights would have expected such an easy run over in what was an absolute landslide, Raven.
Living started in 2013 after we lost a very good man in the name of Dwayne Lally to a mental illness. They say death by suicide affects 115 people, but you can't even put a number on it. The ripple effect that the loss of one life had on thousands of people far outweighed what I've ever experienced in my entire life.
I'd received a call saying he'd gone missing. I was driving around the whole of the Gold Coast looking for him. I had no idea where to find him.
Dwayne was an avid boxing man, very talented. Life of the party, very charismatic, extremely passionate.
Loving, loyal, he was very cheeky.
Mental illness is costing many people their lives every single day. While I'm sitting here speaking, people are taking their life, and it's because there's people suffering in silence.
1 in 5 people suffer from some form of mental illness, and suicide's the leading cause of death between the ages of 15 and 44.
You can look for things like not getting out of bed of a morning, being socially disconnected, loss of appetite, change in mood, change in behaviour, lack of self-esteem.
Dwayne suffered from depression and bipolar for a number of years, and the stigma kept him quiet. So we wanted to turn that negative into a positive, and if the shoe was on the other foot, I'm sure Dwayne would have done the same. We're just doing what he would have done.
Hi, my name's Dan Price. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't connect with Livin, but I certainly wouldn't be as well as I am today. I was suicidal and tried to take my life on the 4th of December 2014. I was very lucky to survive. I didn't want people to know that I was struggling because of the stigmas around mental illness.
We noticed that there were plenty of great service providers in this country, but all too common people weren't seeking help because of this stigma. So we wanted to bridge that gap.
As males, we're extremely tough. We want to be the tough people, the ones that have all the answers, the ones that don't want to admit our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses.
You might not have the answers, but if you can offer support and just listen to them, that could be what they need in that moment of time.
I was an alpha male and a popular guy, and I didn't want people to think I was weak, and that's why I love the message that Livin presents, which is it ain't weak to speak.
We go all around the country, businesses, sporting clubs, teaching people that it ain't weak to speak. What we're really doing is educating them in how to speak, where to speak, and then we're educating people on how to listen and how to look for these warning signs, because without one, you can't really have the other. It's all about being honest and open. You know, if something's off, just ask them.
That's what Livin's all about, taking that stigma away and giving people hope, help, connection, and giving them the confidence to speak up and seek the help when they need it and when they deserve it.
We believe with education comes understanding, with understanding comes acceptance, and with acceptance comes hope.
I want to change the way the world understands, perceives and interprets mental health. Let's change the dynamics in which this is looked at. For far too long it's been a stigma. We're going to make this a dinner table conversation, the same way that we'd put our hand up and run for help if we had a broken leg.
Don't be afraid to have those, hard-hitting, confronting conversations, because it could save a life.
I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, and Livin has been instrumental in changing my life for the better.
If in doubt, reach out, because there's a lot of people out there that want to help and support you making that change to get back on track to start living again.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Oceanic Nationals, day number 2 for the playoffs. 1 day already in the books. 2 teams already have been sent home. We've got 4 teams remaining. Joining me, of course, is my lovely partner in crime. It's Guz. Firstly, before I throw it over to you guys, I just want to also remind everyone about the socials. Hashtag OCN, get involved. I got involved yesterday with a tweet that maybe wouldn't have been too nice to the Noble guys, but I thought it was quite relevant. Of course, we've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Get involved. Hashtag OCN. Let us know how you think today is going to go. And as we play throughout the day, let us know how you are finding it. But guys, day number 2, we're halfway through, or just about going to be halfway through the playoffs. How's it all shaping up for you?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a pretty long day, right? We had 2 banging best-of-3 series, and I think we had, 5 maps in total. In the end, we saw LFO manage to take down Elevate, which was pretty damn crazy. And then we saw, of course, the series between Okami later in the afternoon against Wildcard. Unfortunately, Noble, as you mentioned, did get knocked out. That's what we're looking at there at the start of the day. It wasn't a very good one for them, unfortunately, and because of the nature of the bracket, they are now completely done until we see competition return later next year. So rough one for the Noble boys, as you mentioned, and unfortunately, they couldn't produce the goods in the playoffs once again.
Yeah, very unfortunate that it was also in the playoffs, although I will say it felt like their demise was brewing even in the regular season. Towards the back end, they definitely let a lot of results slip away from them. The other matchup, of course, that we saw, Elevate versus LFO, which we did have to say goodbye to Elevate. It was a very close affair. Went the distance, all 3 maps in the end, 7-5, 7-5, 7-5. The triple trifecta there, with LFO, of course, edging out on top in the final map.
Yeah, LFO arguably looking the best that they've looked all season. They had a bit of a rough regular season, only just scraped through into the playoffs, but they had a couple of their players step up massively in particular rounds, and one of the players that really did step up consistently throughout that best of 3 was Mims. So many highlight plays from him, and that is pretty surprising considering during the regular season he was in fact the lowest rated player for LFO. But moving forward, we did of course then have Wildcard and Okami, and probably an expected result in the end, but maybe a little bit too comfortable for Wildcard if you are an Okami fan.
Yeah, 7-3 on Clubhouse was not ideal for Akami at all, but then they kind of shocked us and gave a really good run on Villa, at one point winning 5 rounds in a row. Akami, they were down 3-0, made it 5-3, and then, well, they even had 2 match points, as you can see here, going right down to the wire. Geo winning that exchange there at what was a 2 versus 2, very close towards the end of that game. And, well, look, Wildcard just did Wildcard things in the end. They ended up closing it out and winning out on Villa, not sending us to that 3rd match. It does send down to the lower bracket. They're not sent home just yet, and we will see them at some point today as well in that lower bracket semi-final. Of course, though, we do have to focus on the upper bracket. First up, it will be Pittsburgh Knights versus LFO. And for Wildcard guys, well, they move forward to the winners final. Here is today's match schedule. Of course, as I mentioned, Knights versus LFO to kickstart off today for day number 2. Following that will be Akami versus TBD, and then Wildcard versus TBD.
Yeah, a lot of banging matches this afternoon. Of course, TBD meaning that we don't actually know who is versing who, right? So the loser of Pittsburgh and LFO will verse Okami, and the winner will verse Wildcard later this afternoon. One key thing to note really about the schedule is the fact that this is actually the first time we are seeing the Knights in the playoffs, just due to the nature of the scheduling. They actually didn't play yesterday. So this is our first look at them. Keen to see if they can continue on that form that they started to build, but also will they continue the form that they started to build negatively against them towards the end of that regular season, because we saw it slip away just a little bit. We'll dive into that pretty soon.
Yeah, they will have to play, I mean, at minimum, regardless of the results, they will have to play 2 matches today. So they will, I guess, get a bit of a feel for it, as many of the teams did yesterday, which, you know, was a bit of a discussion point at the back end of yesterday. Akami, of course, did have to play 2 best of 3s. And, you know, I think you posed the question, Guz, in the interview. It's like, was that a factor in any way, shape or form? And it was pretty much dismissed pretty quickly that it was really something that was a bit of a factor.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to do these teams have the endurance? If you are playing, for example, 2 best of 3s, that's a maximum of, what, 6 maps? That can be 6 or 7 hours, depending on how long those maps actually go out for. So it's a really long duration. That said, teams, when they scrim, might be doing extended scrims where you're doing like the full 12 max rounds over 3 maps, and that does give you a little bit of a taste for that. But when it's in an actual official environment, some teams probably do take it better than others.
course, as we turn out. While Sejon, of course, definitely making his Oceanic Nationals playoffs debut, but at this sort of level, didn't, of course, participate in Six Masters. Josh, Juicy, Hayward, Dino, they've all been here before.
Yeah, a couple of key players to highlight, at least from my point of view on this roster, is probably Hayward and Sage. We'll start off with Hayward. He was the top-rated player for the Knights heading into the playoffs, a 1.13 rating. He was also the best in league on entries with a +8 and the best in the league with clutches with a total of 4. So he is a very deadly player for the Knights. If he switches on, the rest of the team should follow. Moving on to Sage, he's actually been the second-rated player for the Knights, and as you mentioned, he is the newest player on this roster. He filled in the shoes of Strider, who departed before the season kicked off, and he's been a consistent performer throughout. So keep an eye on him to show off as well here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Hayward definitely the standout over the regular season for Knights, but one is obviously the newest member of this roster, has had a massive moments. Josh, at various times, has been very clutch, and they've just been a very well-rounded team. And throughout the regular season, personally, to me, I've always looked at Knights as the contender to wildcard. Obviously, Akami, LFO, they still remain. They want to try and take that title away from Knights, but the fact is, they didn't play the grand final of Six Masters. They're going to want to at least, I think at minimum, get to the grand finals here for Oceanic Nationals.
Yeah, the ultimate goal for the Knights and any team really in the region is to be #1, and to do that, you need to be able to take down wildcard. I think realistically, the expectation should be to at least make it to the grand final and at least finish second. But when you look at them compared to Okami, for example, who are now at a similar skill level, I don't know if the waters are going to be that smooth for them. We saw them struggle a little bit in the back end of the season. They lost to Wildcard, they lost to Okami, they had a very close match against Rhythm, which went 8-6 as well. So I don't think the Knights are in the greatest form heading into the playoffs, but they'll be looking to turn that around.
Yeah, look, you're right. Maybe they're not in the best of form, especially when we look at maybe their opponents, LFO, who definitely ended the back season of the regular season in great form, and of course have been able to now carry that form into the playoffs. They've already got some playoff experience here for Oceanic Nationals, playing on day one, defeating Elevate 2-1. Now they're going to be playing their second match. Mims, Nate, Hills, Sogs, and Nasty. Oh, they're going to be looking to, I guess in this case, cause an upset now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the stage is set. They managed to take down Elevate. They weren't the favorites, I don't believe, heading into that one either. So maybe they can do the same against the Knights. Yesterday, we saw a couple of key players again step up for LFO. The biggest one had to have been Mims. He had a terrible regular season despite having a really strong start to the year in Six Masters. But as the highlights package will show, he had so many plays yesterday. It was absolutely insane. Many of those rounds keeping LFO in the fight. We saw a couple of other players step up, like Nate, for example, who had a little bit of a rough start to the season, but he himself was quite a consistent performer yesterday, so keep an eye on him as well. Again, another player to highlight is also Nasty. We know that he replaced Angmo quite late in the season, heading into the playoffs, but so far it's been a pretty good performance from him, and he'll be looking to keep up that form as well.
Yeah, I thought most of the players on LFO and now for LFO in the playoffs, so how quickly things can change, I guess. And what I'm going to be looking forward to the most in this matchup is seeing if Mims can continue that sort of level into this matchup against Knights, because if they're going to have any chance, they're going to need this sort of Mims right here, you know, who got a quick triple there against Elevate, had those clutch moments. And realistically, I think if Mims doesn't play at the level Mims did, I think Elevate would be in this position right now.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. If Mims doesn't show up in this matchup, there's a very high likelihood that they're going to struggle this afternoon. They need these key players to stepping up. Otherwise, you're going to be punished by the likes of Hayward, who has been having a consistent season throughout and one of the top performers. He will make you reap any mistakes that you make. And if you're not stepping up on the side of LFO, you are going to struggle.
Well, we're going to just quickly step over now to a map veto discussion here because, of course, best of 3 nature means we ban 2, then the teams can pick, and then there's the bans until we get to the deciding map, which is, of course, a very different structure to the best of 1s that we had in the regular season. In terms of this matchup, the only thing I can say is I do feel like Oregon is going to continue to be a bit of a staple for a lot of the teams here in ANZ in the playoffs, guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if we some way or another in this matchup.
Yeah, Oregon was frequently played by both of these teams in the regular season. That said, we also saw Oregon played by LFO yesterday against Elevate. It was a 7-5 victory, so maybe LFO won't feel as comfortable going there because the Knights have also had some decent performances on Oregon and can now VOD review LFO in response to that. That said, you are probably right. It's probably going to make it through. There's a fair chance it will. Other maps that could make it through as well include Clubhouse and Cafe, which have both been staples for these teams throughout the season and going back further into Six Masters. So those are probably the 3 maps to keep an eye out for.
Well, let's go and have a look and see what maps are going to be vetoed out. Firstly, Consular is banned. Theme Park, 2 very, I guess, unpopular maps so far throughout Oceanic Nationals. We haven't seen a whole lot of it. Coastline going to make its way in courtesy of LFO, which is now starting to see a little bit more regular play than it did in the regular season over here now in the playoffs. Clubhouse, not a surprise. It feels like it's the home of ANZ. And lo and behold, of course, Oregon finds a way to sneak into this best of 3. It's the deciding map, though, guys. It's not necessarily a guarantee we'll see it.
Yeah, but if there's any map that I've probably thought LFO could take in this map pool, it's probably Coastline. And the thing is, we actually don't have a whole lot to go off for the Knights on this map. They didn't play it at all in the regular season. You have to go, wow, really far back to see them win this map. I'm scrolling, and I cannot find it. So hopefully the Knights have been screaming this map hard, because if they haven't, they could find themselves in a little bit of trouble. In fact, they actually played it against Wildcard in the Oceanic Major. They lost 4-7. Wildcard probably a little bit on a higher level than LFO, but still might be a little bit of a rocky map for them. And if LFO do win this first map and can take it to Oregon, they might be half a chance to scrape a win.
That is also, of course, right there, shown on full display, the nature of best of 3 map vetoes, right? 2 are banned out, but then you've got such a large map pool to pick from. So you really do, in playoff time, need to have a strong map pool. Well, the other thing that's been strong so far is not our predictions. Unfortunately, the Snowball expert panel have all one-sided chosen Knights for this matchup. Not a surprise at all there, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be an upset if LFO win this. I'm predicting probably a Knights 2-0 if I had to give it a scoreline. That said, maybe Coastline can go the way of LFO and they might be able to sneak a win, pluck a win if you would, but it's an uphill battle. Knights on paper are the better team. LFO though, they've done upsets throughout this season, right? They only just scraped through the playoffs. They managed to take down Elevate as well. So who knows, if the Knights have an off day, LFO might be able to capitalize.
Well, we copped a spray yesterday for those who maybe didn't see the interview with Enigma after, of course, LFO defeated Elevate. Not many of us on the give them much of a chance, but they did come through. To be fair, I don't know if he could really blame us this time around. Guys, Knights deservedly, they are favorites, that's for sure. And well, if they don't win this matchup, Knights, it really kind of puts their entire playoffs campaign into disarray, doesn't it? So let's see how it plays out. First best of 3 of the day, and what's going to be another exciting day of Oceanic Nationals playoffs. We kickstart it with Knights versus LFO. The loser doesn't go home just yet. They fall down and they will then play Okami. The winner will move on and play Wildcard.
I am so keen for this map. For me, this is the battle of Hayward versus Mims. We know Coastline in general is a very frag-heavy map, and both of those players have been popping off in the regular season, or at least Mims in the playoffs. And Lion will be taken off the board first up. Lion bans. Wow, this feels like 2017 or 2018 all over again. Lion does not get banned at all. I think it's the first time this entire season he has been taken off the board, and Capital will follow that up. I think LFO love banning out the cap, and in fact, they've banned it 3 times during the regular season, or 2 during the regular season and 1 in the playoffs. Volk to follow that up, trying to take some of that intel gathering off the board for the defense, and we're probably expecting something similar here to follow it up. Probably a mirror. A mirror doesn't really get a whole lot of play on Coastline because it does open up that bedroom side a little bit more. And there we go, mirror taken off as well.
The clairvoyant guys just spot on with the mirror pick. Yeah, look, Lion, we have seen a little bit of Coastline, or at least the Coastline that we have seen. And Lion has had some success, not a whole lot, but typically just on a very roam-heavy map can definitely be a decent operator to bring on in, of course. So banned out I think even last time out we saw like Finker Lion combo. So rolling back the clock there, and I guess Coastline is just one of those maps that you can bring it forward on. Hookah Billiards will be our first site. We are going to be seeing Knights defending first here on Coastline. Again, a reminder, this is LFO's map pick. So realistically, guys, this is where we should probably be saying LFO. If they're going to have any chance of winning this series, they've got to win this map. This is their map pick. Maybe they've caught Knights by surprise with this pick. This could be the difference.
100%. If they lose this map, I find it very difficult to see them winning Clubhouse, so they have to win this. This is a must win. The fact that they're starting on attack will help them a little bit. We know Coastline traditionally attacker-sided, so if they can bring that aggression and that confidence to the board that we saw yesterday against Elevate, I can see them.
You can stop worrying about grenades now. 10 seconds left before insertion.
Actually being a little bit higher, to be honest. The Knights, though, have been a little shaky, up and down throughout the regular season. Well, at least more towards maybe the back end, I guess. Personally, they've been good, but at times they have shown some weaknesses. And I think for them to win all of Oceanic Nationals, they've got to really sort of grind out those weaknesses from their game and just show us what they're really made of. And look, the start of the season, Sajon came out ablaze. Knights were just hot, and they've just teetered off a little bit. They've got to dispatch LFO. They get then a kind of an early shot at wildcard if they win this.
Hayward getting aggressive inside of lobby early, maybe trying to find that first pick. Gets lit up though, so it's good work by LFO to scare him away a little bit. But now they need to try and convert that into some map control. And that said, Josh is also there probing Dino as well. So we are seeing the Knights get on that front foot early, not backing down without a fight at all, trying to maintain as much of the map as possible. Coastline, of course, is very small, and it doesn't take a whole lot for the attack to get a significant portion of the map under control and able to cut off those rotates. So if the Knights can get in their face nice and early, maybe find an opening pick, that'll be massive for them. But it does look like LFO aren't playing into their hands just yet. Instead, going for control above, and Mims, he's been dangerous, trying to find that first pick, but just not giving it away too early. If you do lose that man advantage on the attack on Coastline, it isn't great for you. It does limit your options later in the round, so it's important that you don't give it away for free.
Minute and a half remaining. And typically on Coastline, it's usually a discussion point in terms of pushing onto site, how quickly you get onto site. Some teams do take it slow, even on a map like Coastline, which, I mean, realistically, if you want, you can kind of blitz in. We've seen it, especially teams like Rhythm do like to play that sort of style. To all intents and purposes, this is very much a slow and methodical attack from LFO in this first round. Obviously, Nasty's close by now. That south hallway joining in onto Aqua. 55 seconds remaining, and there's going to be that opening frag. It's Mims onto Sajon. And it's a good start for Mims on a personal level as well, just to know that that confidence and that ability is still there from yesterday.
40 seconds now left on the board. Smokes will be heading out to try and delay that plant at the default position. Nasty at the drone hole tries to find a pick, but won't quite find its mark. In fact, getting lit up by that smoke through the wall, needs to back off before re-droning the site. Knights as well with control below. C4s could head out. This could be huge from Hayward, but it doesn't quite hit the mark. It does open up some holes potentially to deny the entry as Dino does find a pick, but they're just dropping like flies. They are forced now to go deep in towards the site with 15 seconds left. Can they find the picks? That's the question. The answer is no. Hills left in the 1-on-3. Make it a 1-on-1 now. In fact, as one of those players were down, but Hayward, he can just play time surely, but instead he stands up. He's in a very vulnerable position, tries to hit the wall bang, but misses. Hills with the pistol in hand doesn't have enough time to work with, and the Knights will hold on to win round number 1.
I'll talk about chaotic towards the end for that opening round. That just got messy awfully quick towards the back end, but the Knights do take it out. LFO so close, courtesy of Hills. Picked up the double kill towards the end of that round, but just not enough. Not enough time remaining. I feel like if LFO had maybe an extra 5-10 second, Hills might have been able to go on and win that one for LFO, but and they have an allotted amount of time for very valid reason. We head to kitchen for round number 2. Pittsburgh Knights, though, of course, you know, you mentioned haven't had a lot of experience on Coastline, at least on the public front, maybe in scrims, but it's a good test for them to expand their map pool, which was a discussion we had yesterday about Wildcard, is that you sort of pick a map against Wildcard and Wildcard just don't care.
Yeah. Early days on this map, though. Early days. We are expecting still LFO to mount some rounds rather on the board. And that last round wasn't terribly played by them. Maybe they just left the execute a little bit too late, and then when they tried to head deep in towards the site, they just didn't quite have the manpower to get those picks. It was very close in the end. If Hills had had enough primary in that enough ammo in the primary to try and hit that final gunfight and maybe a couple of extra seconds, who knows what could have happened. But at the end of the day, the Knights will be happy with that. Rounds typically on the defense, if you do win, are going to be close on a map as hectic as Coastline, so they can breathe a sigh of relief that they got the first on the board. And again, keep in mind, they didn't play yesterday, so it's been a little bit since they've been in an official, and it's going to take a little bit of time for them to warm up.
That's actually a really good point you brought up. I mean, to be fair, though, I'm sure they've been hitting the Kovacs and playing just in general, but in terms of this comp level of Siege, and not in any sort of scrims, yeah, it's been a little while since the end of the season, but these guys are pros. You would certainly think that would be more than ready to go to battle here against LFO. More than anything, I think for Knights, though, is sort of the mindset, more so than their abilities, is that they've got to have a strong mindset into this match. Mims pushes up, gets a quick double kill, looking for a third one here, may very well actually find it. No, loses out that exchange to Dino, and that was a must-win for Dino too. Otherwise, that was going to be a 5-on-1 advantage. Now 2-4 does make this round salvageable for the Knights, but it's going to be so difficult. And for Knights, Dino's already quite low too, so it's like 1.5 versus 4.
LFO's round to lose now, and that's a great start from Mims. He's gotten the opening pick in the first 2 rounds, and again, we were skeptical of his performances in the regular season, but so far in the playoffs, it has been very strong from him, and good start here against the Knights. He needs to continue that form and keep LFO in these rounds. Those early picks on Coastline, of course, so critical. And you can see the position now that the Knights are in. 2 players, both incredibly low. Now make that one. Dino in the 1-on-4. Really nothing he can do here, Xenox, and LFO should be able to close this round out with ease.
Yeah. And it all goes to Mims, of course. I mean, 2.5, basically. Dino is the sort of remaining from that Mims opening play. Does get heals, but he's so low on health, it doesn't take much to push him over. Diffuser's down 30 seconds. Obviously, just see what you can make of it, but always outnumbered and outgunned. And LFO, they're on the board.
Again, really liking that aggression early round for Mims. He got the first 2 picks. He put the defense into disarray, and basically like that, he broke the complete control that the Knights tried to establish from above. Of course, there's 2 mindsets you can adopt really when you are defending kitchen. Do you send a couple of players above and hold it vertically, or do you spread out horizontally? Of course, on that occasion, the Knights did try and go above, but they were picked apart so easily. Yes, there was the refrag, but by that stage, it was already picked apart, and LFO were able to capitalize quite comfortably in the end. And of course, that means they do get their first round on the board. They send the Knights over towards Blue Bar and Sunrise. This is an objective, funnily enough, that yesterday we saw Elevate really struggle to defend against LFO. So I'm keen to see if LFO are just as strong here against the Knights.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up. I mean, I think the other thing with Blue Bar as well is that you can get close to the sites just so quickly. So you can put so much pressure on in a very quick manner. So time typically is going to favor more so for the attacking team than it is for the defensive team. As I said, we'll see how this plays out, though. LFO certainly have a bit more experience in this manner, and well, if they can win this round and potentially even win it quite convincingly, it's going to be very difficult for Knights to overcome this. They're going to have to adjust on the fly. And
5 seconds left.
kind of hate constantly sort of comparing them to a team like Wildcard, but that's what makes Wildcard such a good team, is their ability to adjust on the fly in matches. Maybe you lose a couple rounds, but then they can figure out what's going wrong, and that sets them apart from the rest.
Now, the one thing we saw yesterday from LFO attacking this side was really good use of kills on the Thatcher. The EMPs were used to clear some of those key locations. For example, where Sage is playing right now, they cleared that so easily. They didn't even have to drain the utility with flashbangs. They literally just EMP'd it and then just cleared the shield super, super quickly. So Sage needs to be mindful that he doesn't get caught off guard, because I'm expecting LFO to do the exact same thing right now. We can see them already rotating across pretty quickly. So expect to see hills there alongside maybe the likes of Nate, for example, who can clear that, or maybe even Mims.
Oh,
Or just shoot Sage in the head. You can do that too. That's also a very valid strategy, and it works pretty easily.
Device is going dark.
it's been a bit of a rough start for Sejon so far. There's at least one back though for Knights, just to keep it at a even level. And look how spread out they are though. It's almost like every corner of the map. Hills is going to get into this fight, but does lose out even with that slight elevation against Hayward. Positioned nicely, and Hayward was expecting the push down the stairs. Gives the advantage now over to the Knights. Minute and a half remaining, which, again, Blue Bar Sunrise, you don't need that much time. Especially when they already cleared out Sejon's position, or at least cleared the player from that position. I think the shield might still be up, but nonetheless, LFO really just need to have as many avenues as they can. Shield's still up, but they know that is an avenue on into Sunrise.
And I mean, the thing is, that shield, despite it being on a little bit of a weird angle, can sometimes be used a little bit by the actual attack as some sort of reverse cover as they try and get the plant down if they go for that location. It's going to really depend where they get this next pick. So Mims gets that pick inside of Office, makes it a 3-on-3. Sogs gets one as well. So that should open up this more default plant on the couch near the towers entry. Whether they go for it or not, that's the question. Josh is in a great position to cover that. Hayward's a long way away though. So realistically, this is a 2-on-1, even a 3-on-1 gunfight. If they take down Josh, LFO should be able to get that plant down, and Hayward will be in a lot of trouble.
30 seconds left. Mims still above as well in Hookah. Just getting a bit of tag damage onto Josh. Gets him close by to half health. Oh, nice little shot onto Sogs. Rips his head off and now makes it a 2 versus 2 with 19 seconds remaining. That bench is still up as well. Nate, he's going to be slowed. Does get rid of it. And Josh will just hold this position in Sunrise. 10 seconds left. Nate's the one with the diffuser. Pushes in. Does get vision of Josh as well, but is expecting a peek from Hayward. Mims is there, but he does lose out that fight to Hayward. Coming up big, and Josh will peek onto Nate, who, well, had basically no time and no space there to get that diffuser down. And Knights do bite back.
Unfortunate there for Nate. If he had have hit that shot on Josh at the couches, they probably would have won that round. Maybe if Mims could have connected the shot onto Hayward as well, he would have gotten lucky and gotten the 2K in that round. But Hayward, again, we highlighted him as probably one of the best players in the league, never mind just for the Knights themselves. Really key gunfight one there. Him popping off, as he always has been on this map so far, getting a couple of kills, particularly from above. And it did look like the Knights were in a bit of trouble, but they hit some really critical ones late in the round. We're able to close it out, and they do now have the lead 2-1.
Yeah, I do agree with you there, actually, that if Nate does take out Josh, there's no immediate threat to stopping that diffuser, because I'm thinking that even if Mims loses that fight to Hayward, sorry, even if Mims wins that fight against Hayward, Josh is still going to peek and stop the plant, and then time's going to run out. So I still think that was actually, that was the chance, I guess, technically. One begging. Regardless, though, 2-1. And LFO have looked good in these rounds, though. So the scoreline certainly suggests that it's a close affair over the first 3 rounds. Long, long way to go.
10 seconds to go.
But this is definitely the map that LFO need to win to get over to Oregon in that deciding map. Will be very difficult on Clubhouse to take out Knights.
LFO still sticking the Thatcher in this round. We didn't see it have much of an effect in the last round. I was expecting Hills to use it to clear out Sage, but I mean, probably really didn't need it because Sage just got popped in the head. Anyway, the EMPs on this occasion will probably be most useful in helping open up the drinks wall. Sogs with the Habana as ex-Kairos can help assist in that. Also important to note that Ace actually hasn't been banned. It's the one hard breach that normally does get banned here on Coastline. So I'm surprised that LFO aren't bringing that to the arsenal as well, because you can do a lot of damage on that wall if you allow the Salmas to fully work down the wall. That said, I mean, the ex-Kairos can probably open up enough of these angles anyways. We can see Hills peeking them at the moment, and that makes it very uncomfortable for the Knights to sit there. And it's a key position, right? Because you can wide swing, deny the plant, often see a smoke sit there, as Juicy's displaying right now, to throw it through the wall to deny the default as well. So this is a very key position that LFO have applied early round pressure to.
Well, Nate with the opening frag onto Sage, and that's now 3 opening deaths out of the first 4 rounds for Sage. Not the sort of debut in a playoff series that you would like to have, but I mean, if anything taught us, if yesterday taught us anything, though, is that you can have a slow first game and then come back. Saw that with God Legion for Elevate, who struggled immensely on that very, very first map, and came back in that second game. And there's a best of 3, of course, so plenty of time for Sage John to find his feet and get back into this series. Fortunately, the rest of the Knights are doing quite well, although Juicy quite low. Nice inside of Aqua.
Juicy is really low. If he gets cleared off the board here, that's going to make that plant so easy. We can already hear the gas canisters flying out, so I'm assuming Juicy only has the 2 left. Does actually find a pick, so that's pretty big. If Hills had have won that engagement, the Knights probably would have lost this round, but now there is a little bit of a glimmer of hope, because those gas canisters really slow things down for that attack and will probably force LFO to go deep. Meanwhile, Mims is below, maybe trying to catch a player off guard inside of red, and he needs to find this pick nice and quickly. LFO now at the man disadvantage. Mims accidentally gets spotted by the cam, but no call. Josh gets taken down. That evens it back out, and LFO might be able to trade it with Juicy still low.
28 seconds remaining. Nice elimination for Mims onto Juicy. Mims now over at Cool Vibes as well. And that will be the elimination of Dyna. That's now 3 for Mims, just carrying on from yesterday in great fashion. Hayward, though, pushing up Cool Vibes from behind as well, and it's kind of down to a big clutch moment, but Mims is ready for that moment. It was sort of like the regular season MVP versus maybe the current playoffs MVP.
Maybe Mims is just a better gamer during the day. I have no idea, but this is a completely different player to what we saw during the regular season. Very much giving me the vibes of what we saw during the regular season of Six Masters, where he was very, very proficient and a very strong gunner. You can basically just chuck him on the Ash and just trust that he's going to pick up frags, and that's been the case so far. And leading on from that conversation, in the frag department, LFO in the first 4 rounds have won every single opening engagement. So that's a really strong stat to see from them. Yes, the scoreline's only 2-2, but if you are getting these early picks, that positions yourself really nicely to be able to capitalize late round, which in the rounds that they have won, they have managed to do.
Yeah, it's staggering to think, though, like, but what's the difference for Mims from regular season to playoffs right now? Is it a change in tactics, a change in mentality? I mean, it's certainly a question that probably does need to be asked in the interview stage. I'm not going to lie, because it's such a stark contrast.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough question to answer. I'm assuming it probably just comes down to Enigma giving him a little bit more free reign. Maybe they were trialing some stuff during the season and Mims just wasn't as comfortable as he would have liked, whereas now he's just being given that Ash license to go get kills. And I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I know there's often some conjecture, at least in the more ranked or casual community, that Ash gunners are just brain dead, but in the current meta, there is so much utility that you can clear. Never mind the fact that you're a 3-speed with a really strong primary on top of that as well. So Mims can do a whole lot of damage, and when he's hitting shots like he is now, it's very, very dangerous for the Knights, who need to try and shut him down in response, but that is proving really difficult so far.
I mean, obviously finding frags always going to be very important. Down the kitchen. 2-2 right now, back and forth. Currently, as it stands here in Coastline, Knights took out the opener, then LFO, then Knights, then LFO. So expecting that trend to continue. Knights should find the win here, and well, LFO will need to break that trend if they want to take the lead and at the very least secure a minimum of 3 rounds in the half as we get closer towards the end of this first half. Hard to suggest where we're going to be by the end of this at the moment based off just the first 4 rounds, but I guess Coastline's the sort of map where the attacking team is expected to get quite a few rounds to go their way. Juicy with the opening frag on Mims, who was peeking below, and that's a big frag. I mean, that's only just 1 death, but you've taken out the guy who's causing the most issues.
100%. It's the first time the Knights have gotten the opening pick, and it was a key one at that. That probably could have opened up the site completely in towards Kitchen had Josh not won that engagement, or had Juicy not won that engagement. Nate, though, will trade it back. So it's at least left in a 4-on-4 quite quickly here for LFO. They still have just under half the round to work with here. Maybe try and cut off a couple of these players that are off-site, as Sogs will now open in towards Keg. So there's a lot of angles that are being generated in towards site. Of course, that means they are 2-way, and they also need to be mindful of the players that are off-site, which clearly, unfortunately, Sogs was not. Heel's getting lit up as well, so it's a 1-on-4. Not really a whole lot Nate has to work with here, and the Knights should be able to trade it out pretty quickly.
I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but as LFO as a team, certainly don't want to be in a position where you're just relying on Mims. And if Mims goes down early, we just fall away. I mean, to credit to Knights there, good positioning, good pushing. But it goes without saying that early in the rounds that LFO have lost, Mims cannot always be relied upon. Others have got to step up. We have seen that happen yesterday. Nate was going big, Sogs was going big. Nasty and Hills have been good. And so far, look, again, they have been, but it certainly just feels like it's Mims or bust right now for LFO. We head back to Blue and Sunrise for just the 2nd time in this first half, which for Knights, they were successful on Blue Bar Sunrise. So looking to close out the half 4-2 would be certainly a very good half for them, considering it is LFO's map pick, and they haven't actually played it at this comp level for a while, Knights. So a 4-2 half on defense, Coastline, I'd say that's pretty good.
Yep, they'll be really happy with that. They probably know deep down that if they win this map as well, that the chance of them winning this series grow exponentially, because they'll be heading into their own map pick, and Oregon as well has been a strong map for them too if we do actually end up going to that decider. I think it's also important again to highlight the stakes here for the Knights as well. If they do win this match, they do retain their position in the upper bracket. They'll finish top 3. They'll qualify again for the major, and that's really where we started to see the Knights kick into gear. In the last major in August, they actually took down Okami. They took a map of wildcard in that grand final as well, and it felt like heading into this season they'd be a real threat to the likes of wildcard all the way at the top. That so far hasn't really been the case, but if they can kick off their campaign here with a 2-0, maybe they can build on that confidence leading in to their next match, which will be against wildcard.
Loading new mag. Lights out.
You brought up the good point that LFO played Blue Bar Sunrise very well against Elevate. Weren't able to win it first time out here against Knights, but they get a 2nd chance and will be their final chance on the attack, unless we do head to OT. Good positioning again for Knights. So 2 kind of away from site, 2 on site, 1 in the middle. No one holding this position though. Close at Sunrise site, like we saw Sajon get picked earlier on by Sogs. So at the very least for Knights as well, and you know, you think back to when that happened, they were down a player for the entire round, and yet they still actually won it. And for LFO, they're not going to get that opening pick this time, and they're committing a lot to this side of the map.
Oh, good pick from GC. So it has, outside of that pick, been a good start for LFO. They got that wall open early, but now they need to start working above and clear the likes of GC, who is playing deep in towards side alongside Sage. They're in pretty safe positions if they aren't pressured from above, and we can see it's very quiet at the moment. So how is LFO going to deal with this? If they want to try and enter on that breach made by the Ace earlier and go for that default plan behind the chassis on the couch, these positions need to be cleared. Otherwise, you'll get 1 shot, 2 smoked out, or 3 C forward. So it's important that LFO now direct their attention elsewhere, but they haven't really done a whole lot in the last minute. And now they only have 1 minute left to work with, so they need to start getting moving nice and quickly here.
Josh has been droned out, so LFO should have information on, at minimum, 3 players of Knights. Yeah, they're at. Mims just pushing through pool entrance now, just swings just down below. One close by, it's Sejon. And this is the thing, when you open up that wall so early, Sejon has to sit here and watch it the entire time. Then he's got to be worried about behind him as well. So it does keep him sort of locked down, penned in here. If Mims can find this frag onto Sejon, it completely opens up Sunrise as well. 30 seconds remaining. Final round of the half. This is the push now for LFO.
Where's that diffuser? That's going to be the best indication as to where they're actually going to approach this side. It feels like everyone from LFO at the moment sort of just sitting outside, trying to maybe find a pick back. Of course, they are still that man down, and it's going to make this very, very challenging. Hayward goes for an aggressive run out. Not sure if there's any players inside of office, but Dino finds his mark. Hayward does eventually drop that diffuser. It's a 4-on-1 just like that, and unfortunately, Hills left with it all to do. Nothing he can really do. And the Knights will end the half 4-2, a dominant completion to what was a very clean defense.
As soon as I saw that diffuser go down, that was it. That was the round over then and there. And there was only like 10 seconds remaining as well. So all the frags that sort of transpired after that really was for naught anyway. 4-2, good half for Knights. And just maybe have they responded to LFO and they figured them out a little bit. Obviously, now that we switch halves, they're going to have to break down LFO's defense. It's LFO's map pick, though, and there are expectations, I guess, because of the lack of experience, I guess, for Knights here on Coastline. But they seem fine. They seem more than fine with the way that they've been playing it right now. It's a good sign, not just for this series, but for their playoffs as a whole, because obviously, as you mentioned before, this is the first time we've seen Knights in the playoffs so far after not seeing them in day one. Right now, they're looking good. As expected, though, in this matchup against LFO.
Yeah, real opportunity for the Knights to establish some dominance here on their attack. There's a real possibility, I feel like they could run away with this and maybe even 7-2 it if they're very clean. It's going to be up to the likes again of Mims on LFO to fight back hard and try and find these opening picks. We saw them most comfortable when they got those opening picks. In fact, the only 2 rounds they won, they did get the opening pick in both of those rounds. So that's an indication to me that they really need to work hard to get that, because it seems to be favoring the team that does get that first engagement in their favor.
I don't think you can just keep relying on Mims, though. I mean, I definitely know what you mean in terms of finding that opening pick, and it's just the fact that usually it's Mims that's doing it, but others are going to step up. Others are going to find those picks. Others are going to find frags and not just leave it all up to Mims. So I think he's got like 8 kills at the moment as well. So has been balling out again, keeping up that momentum from yesterday and solid form. Mims has stolen a drone there on the Mozzie. Yeah, 9-3-5. Great start for Mims, but does need some help.
Attackers have dropped the bomb.
Knights are in pretty quickly here. There's so much time as well. Hayward on the Jackal is going to spot Sogs. Hayward has just been immense right now as well, continuing really where he left off in the regular season.
I really like the fact that the Knights are bringing the Jackal and the Yana combo. That means that they can clear so much ground quickly. Of course, Hayward can spot those footprints. If there's no footprints, there's a high likelihood it's clear. And if there are, you can scan them and make sure that that roamer isn't going to upset your day. Juicy, of course, can send out those holograms and basically be an active drone ahead, bait out shots, bait out even utilities sometimes. And you can already see that come into effect, right? They've got full control of their AP. Luggage will probably soon follow. And they still have half the round to work with. They have decent intel on towards sight, it would appear. They have to be careful, of course, of Nate, who has this one-way line of sight through the drone hole. They're actually going to try and test it. No, they don't. That would have been very, very spicy. I don't think they would have won that gunfight against the older. But yeah, the Knights so far established really nice positions before this execute. And we know that they have a similar sort of style to Wildcard, where their attack is a little bit of a wind-up and they get super aggressive towards the end.
Yeah, create as many avenues as they possibly can going onto the site so they don't have to just funnel all together at once. They're happy to leave it down to the last 30 seconds remaining. That's fine for them. Clear out all the utility that they can find. Give themselves also as much time as possible to find these sort of picks. Knights, frequently will look to push in after they've got a 3-5 advantage, for instance. You know, they've already found one onto Sogs. Look for that second one. There it is now. Hayward onto Nasty. And with what, 40 seconds to go? This is roughly the next 10 to 15 seconds was when you're going to see Knights start to get in position for that push, for that last 20 seconds. And this is where LFO actually now need to sort of counter-aggress and try and find a pick back as Knights start to push in.
Yeah, Mims almost did that with the C4, but it doesn't really miss. That said, he finds one with the Roni. That's Dino taken down. Mims actually finding a second. He's just stepping up so massively, keeping LFO in these rounds, but the diffuser, it's being stuck. That said, I don't think it's even going to get that far. It doesn't. The Knights push forward. Nathan Hill's shut down. And yeah, this is really starting to look like it's going to be a Knights map.
I'm almost starting to feel a bit bad for Mims right now, who's trying his absolute heart out here and constantly getting these 1-for-2s, you know, going down but getting 2 kills for it. Good trades, looking to counter-aggress Knights at times as well. Unfortunately, I think they're going to find it really difficult with this Jackal. I think this is like almost something that maybe potentially LFO didn't account for. Because clearly, I mean, the Capitão, I mean, it's not a bad ban by any means, but you could see kind of Knights thinking when they banned out the Lion, roaming around, movement is going to be key here on Coastline. Who's great at tracking that? Jackal. We didn't obviously see LFO use Jackal at all, I don't think. So, and it already had its impact in that previous round for Knights, and Hayward up to 10 frags. As you said, it's certainly now tracking in a very favorable direction for Knights. Up 5-2, it's a long way back for LFO on their map pick. Again, a reminder, this of course is best of 3, so we will be heading to Clubhouse after this. Oregon is the decider map if LFO can find a way to steal either Coastline or Clubhouse. And right now, it's not boding well for them at all.
Well and truly, the Knights show so far. And you highlighted this earlier, LFO can't be solely relying on Mims. Sure, they can lean into him a little bit, but when he's the only player on your team, really, that's having a huge impact, that is very, very worrying. It's up to some of the other players to now step up and back him up in that frag department, trade him out when he drops. We've mentioned time and time again that Mims is finding 2-for-1 trades, but no one's really then capitalizing upon that. And they're often coming out quite deep into the round, and that's an indication really that the early round is a struggle, and that is being, you know, only exemplified by that Jackal pick, by that Yana pick. The Knights are just taking so much ground, or they did take so much ground in that last round. Really tricky to counter. Maybe we need to see an even more aggressive roam from LFO, just amp it up to another level instead of maybe turtling in towards site. We can see they have expanded a little bit horizontally, but there's no pressure above. So I'm assuming the Knights will probably try and capitalize on that.
Well, this is like a full LFO defense for site only, really. You've got the ADSs, the Wamai discs, Maestro, Smoke. Everything is just tailed for site. Everything about it is this current position. Knights is the complete opposite. They're happy to take as much ground as possible, and that's working out for them. That's the difference. Unfortunately, for LFO, their plan not working out here. Because you can just see Knights have just got pretty much control of everything that they want. And there's still a minute and a half remaining. That gives them like a good minute to find early picks like that from Hayward onto Hills. And it's what they do best, is capitalize in these sort of moments. 4 versus 3. Minute and 18 seconds remaining. Dino will get Seiji on back up and now push down Cool Vibes. They've still got that numerical advantage, and they've still got about a minute.
Of course, Mims is still on the board, so if you can take 2 with him on the way to the grave, that would at least even out the man count. So I'm not sure where he's positioned right now. In fact, it's in towards blue. Bit of a high-risk position. A lot of angles can be held from outside that blue window, but he'll be safe in the meantime. Talk about being safe. Nasty won't be. Leaving it at a 4-on-2, and the Knights should be able to capitalize.
40 seconds remaining. Feels like it's just all down to Mims. What can he do? What can he salvage? Unfortunately, you don't get bonus points for just finding frags. You got to win the rounds, and that's exactly what Knights are doing right now in fashion, in style. It's 6-2 on LFO's map pick. They are getting demolished right now by Knights.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm thinking a little bit about the operator picks that LFO brought that round. I can see the thought process behind bringing that Mozzie and Mute combo. They're trying to deny that early round intel for the Knights, but when you're not roaming as heavily as I would like to see from them, it's not having as much of an impact as you would expect. I mean, the Yana and the Jackal are still on the board. Sure, they'll be affected by the Mute jammers, but it basically just renders the Mozzie completely redundant. Sure, Mims can pop off with the Roni, but the actual operator utility isn't having a major impact on the Knights' ability to gather that intel. And we're seeing them time and time again know basically exactly where every member from LFO is, and they're just picking them apart one by one. No trades coming out either from the defense, which is making it very, very challenging for LFO to have any chance in these rounds.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
So multiple match points now in favor of Knights against LFO. Well, I think maybe have just been beaten at their own tactics right now. Knights just look like they've had this one in the strap book for a while, and they've cooked up something nice here against LFO. Might just have been taken a bit aback here. I didn't mind the decision to go to Coastline. In fact, when I saw Coastline come out, I thought maybe there's a big opportunity there for LFO to get a map. I mean, it was their map pick. They played well on it. We saw them against Elevate on it. Ultimately, though, Knights too strong, too good, and after this, we head over to Clubhouse, which is that more structured style map, guys, and that's just not going to bode well for LFO.
Definitely will not reset that expectation. If LFO do not win this map, it's very, very, very difficult to see them bringing this one back. It's going to take somewhat of a minor miracle for them to actually end up winning Clubhouse. So they're going to have to pull off a mini miracle of itself on this map, win 4 rounds straight and head it to OT. But so far, that's looking very unlikely. That said, Hills does get the opening pick, and that does give a glimmer of hope for LFO in this round.
It's not just this round that they need hope for. They need it for the entire map. They need it for the entire series. It's all about, though, winning these small battles, one round at a time. Try and look to find a way to get back into this. For Knights, obviously, you can drop a round or two. It's not the end of the world. But you don't want to fill LFO with any sort of confidence. Hayward on the Jackal has been a mess for LFO to deal with. But Sog's coming up clutch with a quick double onto Hayward and Dino, who are just trying to push on. Sogs, though, of course, position well known by that point. Sageon able to at least get him 2 versus 4. Juicy with the diffuser in hand, close to sight. Minute and a half remaining, but I think LFO might be able to at least avoid 7-2.
Sage is still above with some Vert trying to find a pick. If they can maybe find one back, turn it into a 2-on-3, that could be possible. That said, this key position from Nasty right next to that default plant could serve as a big hurdle to overcome. Juicy's going to try and enter that gunfight potentially soon and might be forced into it. It's now a 1-on-4, and he's already getting lit up. Position revealed, and he should be taken down. No, the shot's narrowly missed, but this is really just delaying the inevitable. LFO should be able to claim this round very, very soon if they hit the shots, which they're not, and Juicy can retreat back, and he'll probably just use this as an opportunity maybe to pad his stats a little bit.
Yeah, look, padding stats can always be a bit of fun. And winning matches is even more fun, though. And why not have the opportunity to do both here for Juicy? Find a couple frags, lose the round, but then win the next one. 15 seconds. Or maybe we could have ourselves a classic moment. Don't think it's going to happen now, though. Needed to get that second frag quickly and didn't quite grab it. Well, LFO do at least avert the 7-2. And it is just simply one round at a time. Treat each round as if it's match point or 0-0, whichever one works for you more. Because, I mean, technically, in this case, it is every round match point.
Good start in that round there for LFO. Hills got that opening pick, and it helped open up the round a little bit more. It facilitated that aggressive play that we did see upstairs from Sogs, I believe it was, on the Jaeger in towards Hookah. Found a couple of picks, and by that stage, the round's basically over, and that's really just the nature of Coastline. Some of these rounds can be basically over within the first minute and a half, and we have seen that here and there in this matchup. Still though, LFO need to win 3 rounds straight to keep themselves in this map, and as we've mentioned, arguably keep themselves in this best of 3, because the road does not get any easier after this map.
Attackers have discovered the location of a bomb.
It's just all about belief, positive mindset, understanding that it's just 1 round at a time. You can get back into this, and as you creep closer and closer to getting back into it, it puts the doubt further and further then onto Knights, and then they start to doubt themselves and if they're going to be able to close it out at this match point. Because like realistically right now for LFO, they've got nothing to lose. They're the underdogs coming into this. They're now down 6-3. It's all up to Knights to just capitalize and convert. So the pressure's more so on Knights than it really is on LFO in this sort of instance. Now, if the roles were reversed and it was 6-3 in favor of LFO, well, I would still say all the pressure is on Knights. And that just is what is the case when you have the expectations. But I think better positioning from LFO, at least in that last round, and then from the looks of it, even for this round as well.
Early engagement again here in round 10. Mims inside of Theatre trying to hold off this push from the Knights as they try and claim control of Bedroom, and they'll be looking to convert that then across horizontally in towards VIP and the surrounding rooms around the objective and squeeze out this defense a little bit. But I like the positioning from LFO. They are not backing down without a fight. They're willing to enter these early engagements, try their luck a little bit. And I mean, when you're at this stage in the map, there's not really a whole lot to lose. If you want to play a little bit more risky, sure, you might lose the round and lose the map. But when you need to win 3 straight, you need to be pulling out all the stocks to try and bring it back.
Yep. Oh, it's unfortunate though for Hills. Just walks straight in, doesn't check Dino, and opening frag going to Knights, and typically throughout this match, they've been able to capitalize extensively when they do get that opening kill. They've had a very high success rate to then go on and win the round. So LFO is certainly up against the back wall right now. Mims is going to have to come up clutch again. Again and again for Mims. Find a way to get them back into this round. Find a 1-for-2 somewhere along the lines, and maybe LFO can pinch yet another one here on Coastline. Otherwise, we could be heading to Clubhouse a little bit early.
Jackal on display there will give away Mims' position, and again, the Knights have been leaning into that Jackal and Liana really heavily to find these picks. Will Mims find that pick? No. Dino takes a little bit of damage, but still plenty in the bank to work with. And the Knights, yes, they only have a minute to go here, but I think they've done a good job so far establishing these positions. We know, again, they like that sort of wind-up technique on their attacks, and we're expecting them to get quite explosive in towards Aqua. LFO should have the intel. They should be ready for this, as Sogs below can give that using the heartbeat sensor. The question is, can LFO actually overcome the manpower that they will be facing? If the Knights push deep in the 5-on-4, you'd probably have to favor them.
A nice little death hole there from Nate. 30 seconds remaining. It's going to be push time for Knights any second now. Well, that's an easy one for Sogs. Josh just standing still, unaware completely that Sogs was right below him. Dino's going to get that plant down. Wasn't stopped. Hayward was able to keep the advantage until Nate does get a quick free frag onto Dino. So no more advantage for Knights. In fact, now advantage over to LFO quickly. Mims getting involved. Sejon cannot stop the onslaught. And LFO will survive yet another round here on Coastline. And they also survive the push from Knights at the last second.
Bomb defusing attempt failed. Defenders win.
2 in a row.
I was a little bit concerned when that plant didn't get denied. They still had the Pulse below, who did find a pick, but maybe that distracted him from being able to deny the plant. But it was a really clean retake. The Knights quickly tried to shuffle into the post-plant positions, but LFO were able to shut them down before they were really able to establish those crossfires quickly. We didn't see any of them traded out, which was a key mistake made by the Knights in that round. I was expecting them potentially to just push deep and try and frag it out, but maybe they did favor themselves in that post plant. Unfortunately, maybe it was a bit of an oversight, but nonetheless, maybe we're still delaying the inevitable. I know we keep saying it, but LFO are surely not going to win this map, but now they're only 2 rounds away. They've halved that deficit from 4 down to 2. Now they go to Kitchen, a site that we haven't actually seen. So who the hell knows if LFO are going to be any good here?
Yeah, we haven't seen it this half, have we? So first half, we did see it twice, which was split 1-1 between the two. So doesn't really give us much of an indicator here on Knights' attack. Yeah, look, I keep saying it, but it is just meant to be 1 round at a time. That's the mentality LFO need to have had, and hopefully still do have as well, because look at the bigger picture. You're down 6-2. It's a very, very daunting task to think, well, how are we going to somehow make it 6-6? 4 rounds in a row. But if you look at it as just 1 at a time, 1 at a time. Now 6-4 doesn't look so bad. 6-4 looks pretty close on paper. It's just 2 more match points. They've already done that, technically. They've already subsided 2 match points. Just do it again. So it does make the task seem more conceivable for LFO. To the credit, have been mixing it up a bit more. Mims roaming around has been successful. No surprise, really, because Mims has just been on another level in the playoffs. And you just get that sense of feeling. If Mims can find an opening frag, Knights just might buckle. And 6-5 will then put all the stress in the world on Knights.
He is desperately trying to find it. He has done a couple of very risky peeks so far. That one out the front door, for example, if the Knights were to just position someone on an off angle, he'd have his head ripped off, but the Knights instead distracted elsewhere, trying to maybe disrupt this hold from above. We're seeing utility placed, reinforcements, shields, etc. And 3 players actually holding the fort. The Knights have droned it, do seem aware of that location. And it looks like they're going to push it as well. 3 members of themselves up there ready to go, and Hayward quickly will actually scan out that Jaeger. So that's Nate playing over towards the white stairs, and I don't think he'll really be in too much of a compromised position. Should be able to make his way back in towards the objective. That was actually a Mozzie drone as well. So not only is Mims trying to find this pick, he's also gathering intel as well and creating holds from below. So this is a nuisance so far that the Knights need to deal with, and with only a minute 30, they need to start to get a wriggle on.
There's just a lot more pressure right now onto Knights from LFO, and that's where they've been successful. Oh, Mims. Desperately trying to find something, but it is going to be Josh for Knights to do find the opening frag onto Nate, so advantage to Knights, although while they did have a very successful record in terms of converting off that opening frag, the last round did go the way of LFO. There are some fightbacks here, though. Hills gets 1, needed to get the second, because as you saw, Knights were able to find a couple kills themselves. It's down to Hills and Mims, of course. Now it is just down to Mims after Hills loses out to Sejon. Now Sejon's low. Juicy has taken a bit of damage too. Josh, full health. 45 seconds remaining. Mims needs a 1 versus 3. Gives away his location, but does get the down onto Juicy. C4 should get the elimination. No, that was shot. It was stopped.
Got stuck.
And I think it was shot though, still, regardless, even if it did get stuck. And Sejon has been able to come over and pick up Juicy, can go back now, pick up that diffuser, and that felt like that was Mims' chance to get into this. And it's been denied.
20 seconds left now. The Knights, not sure if they are fully aware as to where Mims is positioned. There were some shots that just rained out. Wallbank's following up as well, so I think they have at least some fair idea of where he might be positioned. Mims is pre-firing the wrong location, but doesn't get taken out immediately. Needs to try and find this pick. The diffuser going down, being held from above as well. Not a whole lot he can do. The Knights cleanly take Coastline, and the odds are truly now against LFO.
7-4 Knights victory on Coastline on LFO's map pick as well. It does not bode well for LFO. That's a good start in this best of 3 though for Knights, and a good start for their playoff run, since it is, of course, the first time seeing them thus far. Good half. Of course, still another map to be played in this best of 3, but Knights are looking good. There was a little scare for a very brief moment from LFO, and credit to them, guys, for that little fight back, especially being down 6-2. Could have been a very easy rollover and a quick 7-2, but they didn't give up. They just kept Knights honest, and in the end, I think 7-4 is a very proper scoreline.
Yeah, they dug their heels in a little bit there and mounted a little bit of a mini comeback, but in the end, and the last round really encapsulated it, right? Maybe leaning into Mims just a little bit too much. I believe if Mims wasn't playing as hot as he was right now, that could have been even way more one-sided than it was. So many rounds, he had a key impact in keeping LFO's chances alive. Even in a couple of the rounds that they actually lost, Mims still had a massive impact. And one thing I do want to highlight, we talked about opening kills quite a bit. Of course, Coastline, very frag heavy. The whole map tends to revolve around that sort of play style. If you look at the conversion rate for the Knights, they won 75% of the rounds where they got the opening kill. That's compared to 63% for LFO. Both teams actually had a 50-50 split in the opening kills. So both teams were even in that regard. It's just that the Knights were able to capitalize on that advantageous position on more occasions.
Certainly were. Well, of course, best of 3 means we do have a second map in this series to now head to. It's currently Knights that are leading 1-0 after getting the win onto Coastline. When we come back from the break, we head over to Clubhouse.
Attackers activated. Attackers have recovered their defeat. 15 seconds to go. Under has been discovered. 10 seconds left. Attackers drop the bomb.
Things I never did.
Yeah, I see no signals, no signs. Girl, you be tripping, no lie, nah. You said you're not set by. I flew in all the way for this. I'm not here to waste your time. I just can't give you vibes, you changed a bit. Girl, you mad teasing. I don't mind leaving, just let me know. She told me take it easy. Hey, yeah. I just came here to make y'all feel good. You know what the message is. Suddenly you're with me now. You know what the message is. I've been running wild for you, babe. You know what the message is. I don't have no pain. no conversation. Feel good, sometimes make you feel good. You're my mission, my grand prize. Catch my vision, no damn pride. Girl, you max easy. I don't mind leaving, just let me know. Then she told me take it easy. Yeah, yeah. I just came here to make y'all feel good. You know what the message is. Suddenly you're with me now. You know what the message is. I be running wild, wild for you, babe. You know what the message is. I don't have no patience. Ain't no conversation.
Well, the Knights are shining here at the Oceanic Nationals for playoff day number 2. LFO certainly have got their work cut out for them after losing their own map pick on Coastline 7-4. Great little, I guess, playoff debut, I guess you could say, for Knights there. They can now head over to Clubhouse, which was their map pick, and a more structured map too, which I think we could both agree will certainly favor Knights more than LFO.
Yeah, it was a valiant effort from LFO. I think they always had the odds stacked against them heading into this matchup. On paper, Knights are definitely the stronger team, but it is sad to see them lose their own map pick. Now the battle gets very, very grim for them. It's tough seeing them beating the Knights on Clubhouse, which is very structured.
Yeah, look, they're going to be up against it, but in terms of keys to success, I think for LFO is going to be taking it to Knights. Don't just turtle in. Don't just allow them to do what they do best, which is pretty much set up multiple avenues, clear everything, clear all that utility, and have 30 seconds to go, and then they'll push in. And once they've got 5 different ways in and everything's cleared, you got to kind of, I guess, take it to them a bit.
Yeah, I want to see them as a team take it to them, though. We saw Mims take it to them, but you can't be just relying on him. And he was keeping LFO alive, really, there in Coastline in a lot of those rounds. But they cannot rely on just him, particularly on Clubhouse. That will not end well.
Certainly not. Well, right now, it's down to Clubhouse for LFO. Pittsburgh Knights up 1-0 in this best of 3. Provided that LFO lose, they drop down, they play Akami. Knights, of course, provided they do win, will go and play wildcard and potentially give us maybe an early grand final viewing. We'll see. Long way to go, of course, until tomorrow. Good luck, have fun. Map number 2, it's Clubhouse.
Mav taken off the board here, nice and early. We don't see too many games these days in OCE with Mav still around, and we might even see something crazy from the Knights, a double hard breach ban, but I don't think they'll make things too difficult for themselves. They are attacking first. They'll be looking to mount that early pressure on LFO, which, let's be honest, has already been mounted off the back of that first map result. It's actually going to be a hard breach ban, so I'm talking absolute rubbish. But look, I think the Knights will probably still thrive in this environment. They'll still be comfortable with those double hard breaches off the board. The question is, how will LFO be able to respond to that? Mirror taken off the board, so nothing too wild in that regard. And I'm keen to see how risky LFO get here in the defense. Do they try and maybe take off a hard breach denial, such as a Kaid? Do they maybe play it a little bit safer and take off an info denial, such as the Valk or maybe even the Maestro? We'll soon find out, but I'm expecting it'll probably be the Kaid. Or no, it'll actually be the Intel Gatherer. So my radar is in need of calibration, apparently, but look, I don't think anything stands out to me massively there. The double high breach ban will be a little bit of a headache for the Knights, but you'd expect the fact that they are attacking first and that they did have the option not to ban it out. They are well and truly prepared to lean heavily into that Thermite and Habana.
Church Arsenal, no surprise. At the very least for LFO, they are going to be on the defense first, but it could spell their own demise if they don't do well this first half. If they're down 4-2 in favor of Knights, then I think it could be a very quick 7-2, for instance. So it's going to be a very telling half. Provided, though, I think if Knights had been defending first, I mean, we could have been staring down the barrel of like a 5-0 or 6-1 sort of scenario, to be honest. Such is the nature of Clubhouse, but this is probably the better start for LFO. If they're going to win this map, they're going to have to do well defensively, and, well, what better site to do so than Church and Arsenal as well, which definitely the best defensive site. We'll see what Knights are going to bring to the table here. But in terms of how LFO are going to play this, I don't know how aggressive they're really going to be here. We see a lot of teams probably in LFO's position might just turtle up 5 down the bottom.
And I mean, if the operators are anything to go off, that's probably what we are expecting here. No castle has been brought to the table, so it's going to make that roam very difficult, and they're probably not going to commit to it. Instead, they'll probably try and play heavy denial on the hatches with the Kaid and try and impact trick the kitchen hatch, which can be a valid strategy. We often see teams able to pull it off, and it often does lead to the attack having to filter down the hatch late in the round. I'm not sure really how sustainable that will be against a team like the Knights, who will have that experience and ability to adapt to that on the fly. They're probably expecting it. So I'm not sure if it will be necessarily a consistent strat, but it might work in the first round while the Knights are fresh.
Yeah, early indications, though, suggest that LFO are just going to sit back and allow Knights to do what they please up above. And I guess kind of just... What's the goal, though, by this sort of play? Is to just, I guess, 30 seconds, you got 5 up. And hope that no one's been picked through, you know, kitchen floor, for instance, and that Knights don't have some sort of advantage.
100%. It's almost the strat of holding on for dear life, right? If it does come down to that sort of hectic style of execute, you should be favoring the defenders in that if they still have the plant denial on the board. But that's right. If they get, if the Knights get that cheap pick and there's no trade, if it's from the above down below, for example, which can happen often, that player that needs to trick the hatch will put themselves in a very risky position. And you're right, if they do lose that man, it does make it increasingly difficult for the defense who don't have that man advantage to lean into for the trade. And I mean, so far we haven't actually seen a whole lot of action in kitchen, right? There's some vert in the hallway, but we haven't actually seen the Knights attempt to get that hatch open. Now they will. Hayward's actually going to open it up even further. So this is to try and counter Nasty from below. He'll try and impact trick the hatch, but he needs to be mindful that he doesn't get his head taken off. And so far, there's a lot of pressure being applied, making it difficult for him to get in the position to throw that impact.
It also just makes it difficult in terms of finding a place that might be safe to stand as well, because there's so much that has now been opened. It's Dino who finds the opening frag. The feet of Nasty as well, spotted by Sageon and Dino. They both combine. 50 seconds remaining, and it's just a slaughter technically. 5-3. Mims at least gets one back, and I guess we're already seeing a reminiscence of Coastline where it just feels like it's Mims or nothing. Dino's had a bit of a fall over, though, and suddenly it's a 2 versus 2. I'm not sure what happened with Dino there, but it has just certainly backfired right now. What has happened? A capitulation from Knights has given the round over to LFO.
I looked down at my spreadsheet for like half a second, and in that time, the Knights literally threw that round. It felt like they had all the positions set up. They got 2 free picks from above, and we mentioned that that would be a fault point for LFO and could potentially lose them the round, but then somehow it just turned on its head. LFO just went, all right, well, we've got to send it now, right? And that aggression did pay off. The Knights maybe not expecting it, maybe just getting a little bit antsy. Time was running low a little bit, so they were probably starting to think and communicating about the plant, and they just got caught off guard. So, good round there from LFO. Again, you can't be leaning into those sort of clutch plays every single round, but it's at least a nice little confidence booster for them here.
I mean, the win's a win. You take it however you get it.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
That was a strange one. It's like in part both like Knights just kind of tripped up on them over themselves, really. That's how it felt like more so to me, but LFO also still had to capitalize, and they did. To their credit, they do get basement with Church and Arsenal, which obviously you kind of expect the defending team to get, but not when they're down 5-3. at that point, you kind of feel like it might just about be over, but it wasn't to be. Head over to Cash and CCTV. And we're seeing this position actually with the Kaid from Rafters can trick that wall in CCTV. They are, though, going to protect a bit more on garage side, though.
Keen to see who they actually position here to hold the Rafters.
Nasty.
It looks like it will be Nasty, so...
No,
good little
Mims?
position. I mean, the thing is, if you do stick your Legion there, that means that the goo mines can't be placed elsewhere. So it's a bit of a high risk, high reward strategy. If the Knights do dedicate hard into garage, and particularly if they did actually bring a Montang, this would be a good pick. But the way that it is being played currently by LFO does leave them a little bit vulnerable to rushes or even players creeping up the stairs in other locations, because of course those goo mines don't give away that sound coup. Either way though, we'll have to see how that plays out. Slugs tries to bandit trick the wall, doesn't quite pay off. So the breach is open nice and early, under a minute into the round. So good efficiency from the Knights so far, and of course that means that Alpha need to vacate the site. They'll push back in towards Cash, and now the Knights can really start to probe the site a little bit more and try and start displacing these members.
Well, they can also just now have, they've got 2 minutes in the bank, so there's plenty of time to put pressure on garage, for instance, as well, which is what they're potentially going to shape up to do. If they can displace Nasty, that's really like end game goal right now. Get rid of Nasty, gives them control of garage. They've already got Kennel's wall opened up as well. And they got a lot of time. It's not like there's many other objectives that they really have to now focus on. Nasty doesn't want to pick that. You really don't. Although, successfully does get some damage onto Dino. Throws out the grenade, looking for even more damage, and is successful. Moving around, though, there's already one inside. Maybe was caught off guard by Hayward, taking a bit of damage to do so, but is successfully able to eliminate Nasty up from Rafters. And there's still 1 minute and 18 seconds remaining. Rafters is clear. Kennel's wall is open. Knights are firmly in control right now.
Yeah, now we can see them applying some pressure over towards Con. LFO aware of that. Have a couple of players stationed in there trying to bunker down, maybe find a pick back. Of course, if you do hold that Con window, it opens up the opportunity to run out, deny the default plant, but it's going to be so challenging. And
oh my god,
what are they doing? Why are they committing to this so early? That was very, very strange. And great shots from Sage to shut them down. Leaves it now in a 5-on-2. Make that a 5-on-1. And now Nate is just getting bombarded from every location known to man, really. So many angles opened up early in this round by the Knights, and there's nothing that the smoke can really do now.
I think you could see the idea that LFO were going for against St. John, but the execution didn't quite match the idea. Flawless round for Knights as they slipped up in round number 1. Realistically, they probably should be up 2-0 right now, but that's not the case. It is 1-1. That was just clean execution from start to finish. Everything about that round from Knights.
Yeah, I mean, part of me respects the decision to go for a risky player like that. Did they really need to? Begs the question. Maybe they were feeling a lot of pressure in towards site and felt they needed to find that pick. But if you are going for those plays, there needs to be some better timing. There's no way that Sage should be able to hit both those shots and win them both. So something went wrong there in the communication department. It should have just been as simple as 3, 2, 1, jump. You can't kill 2 players from 2 different angles at the same time. And Sage managed to do it because the timing just wasn't quite on point. So look, could have been a whole different round had they have won that engagement, but unfortunately for LFO, not meant to be, and we're now going to see them reattempt that time.
Yeah, not much of a surprise to see them reattempt Cash and CCTV. I mean, the only other option was Gym Bedroom, which, I mean, I don't really think would have played out all that differently anyway, to be honest, and they can at least now try and rectify the mistakes they certainly did make in that previous round. Nasty switching over to the Wamai as well, rather than the Legion, which, I mean, I don't even think the Legion had any impact at all in that last round, really, especially setting up in Rafters.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, right? It was a high-risk, high-reward position, and look, it really didn't have a reward at all, and I believe Nasty was the first death that round, and was, in fact, it was Hayward who literally just walked straight into garage and took his head off. So it did have a limited impact, and I do like the change up onto the Wamai. It is an operator we often see played in this position. The magnets can be placed high up on the roof, impossible to shoot out, and can provide that coverage that is needed. And if that's also combined with some ADS devices, which in fact it is a difficult position for the attack to push and should soak up a little bit more time than it did last time.
The other part of the equation, of course, is this bandit trick from Sogs. If he can get this successfully, they can buy a lot more time in the round. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to beat the EMP grenades, though, from Hayward. And, well, that wall is, again, in fact, opened up even quicker this time. And Sogs is also quite low, too. So this is maybe even a worse start than the last round. We'll see how this next stage, though, does transpire, which you would think LFO should be able to do a little bit better in this Rafters battle and the Garage battle.
I wonder how much utility the Knights will dedicate to clearing this position. We could well see them try and just walk into the gunfight. Hayward in a very similar position to what we saw last round.
He spotted him,
trying
surely.
to find the pick or not. Remember, that is Sogs, quite low on HP, and this pick will open up the round nicely for the Knights and put a lot of pressure back on Nasty. Still in this position. Oh boy, I really hope for LFO that they don't lose this first gunfight, but Nasty does actually win the first. That's Dino taken off the board. Capitao tries to clear his position, but the frag isn't followed up onto, and this is really falling apart for the Knights. Good start to the round here for LFO, and Juicy gets taken down as well, so solid hold there of Garage. The Knights just unable to clear it on this occasion.
Yeah, LFO, that was certainly better. They put 2 players up top of Garage, which turned the tide, and they were able to have that reframe potential, and the numbers probably just overwhelmed Knights in the end. Maybe committed too much to Garage for Knights' sake. Too much at once as well, to be honest. I mean, you had Kennel's wall open. They had so much time. Maybe just got a little bit antsy and wanted the reward quickly. It's hard to believe it's 2-1 in favor of LFO. This does not feel like it's 2-1 in favor of LFO, but it is. It's been a bit of a crazy clubhouse so far over the first 3 rounds. And
Need to locate and defuse bombs.
look at this. This is a big round here because basement, heavily winnable. Puts you at 3 rounds at minimum. And it does give them then 2 chances to get that 4th round, which I think is definitely going to be required for LFO. Look, they're certainly up for the task here on Clubhouse, that's for sure. If we maybe doubted them slightly, they've at least got some wins on the board. Albeit they haven't really been clean wins, they're still wins nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the first 3 rounds, right? The first one, when it was Church Arsenal for the first time, somehow LFO managed to bring back a 3-on-5, so that one was a little bit dicey. We then saw them get absolutely pummeled in Garage on the second round, but then brought that back in the last round and just pummeled Knights in return. So far, this has played out quite strangely. Again, it's early days. The Knights still in a great position if they want to mount a bit of confidence to get super aggressive in these attacks and shut down this momentum that LFO is starting to build a little bit. But, I mean, LFO, they're not playing shy at the moment. Oh, this is very, very bad. Hills has been Ping 2.0. They know exactly where this Jaeger is. Oh, Hills!
It was too high.
You're not meant to win that. Gee whiz.
By like a millimeter too high with his crosshair, and so had to readjust, and that's the reason why Hills ends up winning that. It's the only reason, really. And it gives LFO a 5-on-4 advantage for the remainder of this 4th round. And obviously, it's already Church Arsenal. It's already going to be very difficult here for Knights. Now you're down a player. You're down that Thatcher too. So, I mean, this is a rough round for Knights. They're going to be up against it.
Yeah, I think Sage was probably confident that he'd win that one. He had a lot of intel to work off, but maybe in hindsight, it would have been smarter for the likes of Dino to just cut him off, and they could have pressured him into making this mistake and falling into the trap of being cut off. Again, 2020 vision is always very clear, or hindsight's always 2020, but I mean, Hills is cut off now, right? So the damage has been done, the Thatcher's taken off the board, but it is effectively a 4-on-4. The Knights could try and hunt this player down, and it looks like maybe they actually will. So if they lose any more members, it really will be devastating. But yeah, this is a weird round. A lot of time being wasted as well. So this has been very well played by Hills, and it's almost getting to the point now where if he does die, maybe it actually has done its job, right? He's done a lot of damage. He's wasted a lot of time, and this is a very big distraction to deal with.
Oh, he's found a second one as well. Talk about doing your job. He's done more than that. He's got 3 now, even through the wall against Dino. He's expecting more to peek him. He's like, how many are you going to throw at me? Keep them coming. There's 55 seconds left. This round is over. 5-on-2. Josh and Juicy would have to pull off something miraculous. I mean, to be fair, it has already been a bit of a weird clubhouse. Maybe there's even more strangeness to come. They finally shut down Hills. I think we both agreed now, definitely job done. It's like an A+.
30 seconds now left, 2-on-4. Juicy at least has an exothermic charge to use and can blow the hatch. Insta drops as well, but falls right into the clutches of the Banshee. Mims, however, does fall down.
No, not like this.
This is not a round to lose, LFO. You just need to hold on for another 15 seconds. Push coming through. They just need to trade it out, but Josh hits one on the prone. Is traded out, though. Juicy gets one back, though. It's a 1 versus 1. Nate, inside of blue.
Nate, full health. Juicy, kind of low. In fact, very low. And now sticking that diffuser. And Nate does not lose these. He's toying with him. Even allows him to get the plant down. And LFO will not lose the round, despite the very heroic comeback from Josh and Juicy, the dynamic duo, almost clutching it. Unfortunately, though, that diffuser had to go down, and that was really the main reason why Nate was able to just calmly walk in and get that job done. And LFO 3-1 up on Clubhouse.
This isn't Clubhouse. This is a madhouse right now. I don't even know what's going on. This is some weird goings on. I mean, that last round, right? Sage dropping at the start, that was a forgivable mistake. He only narrowly missed the shot and did a whole lot of damage to Hills. But then the entire team tried to hunt down Hills and just got absolutely torn apart. Very one-dimensional take. One-dimensional take to try and cut him off. Did they even need to go for that? I questioned that. Then I thought, oh, maybe this is right. Just get rid of him. But no, that wasn't the play. It soaked up a lot of time. Ended up leaving it in a 2-on-4. So yeah, Knights will not be happy with how they played that. That said, though,
oh no, I don't think they'd be happy with the way this has gone at all. Really,
no.
Like the first round, this round, like they're probably maybe even a little bit tilted potentially.
I mean, maybe. Again, it's obviously difficult. We're only speculating. We're not literally in their comms listening to them getting tilted. But you're all right. I think there's a risk. Yeah, there's a risk. There's a risk they're getting tilted, right? They were probably expecting to head into this map after beating LFO on their pick to just storm through. They'll head on later this afternoon and play wildcard, right? But now they've entered this weird sort of phase where LFO are just playing that fluid LFO style. They're unpredictable. They're doing quote unquote just dumb stuff.
What did Digital label it as yesterday?
I can't even remember what he said.
Oh, no. But it wasn't. Well, it wasn't flattering.
It wasn't pleasantries. No, it wasn't pleasantries.
No. But hey, I mean, whatever works, works. Who cares, really? I mean, Digital did say that they're going to prepare for LFO out of all of the teams next season, and maybe for good reason. But look, obvious. I don't think Knights probably are actually tilted. It's just more of a way of thinking about where they should be at. That first round, they should have won it. They're up 5-3. Dino ends up killing himself with a nade. Just an absolute calamity. And then the Cash CCTV round that they lost as well was a bit of a throw. Didn't quite play it the way they did the previous round to that. And then, of course, Hills just walking around doing as he pleased in that last round. So Knights certainly can't be happy with the way that they've been playing thus far. They've got things that they've got to fix. Fortunately, still this round and one more to go in the half, and then they switch to their own defense, where I think they might end up being just quite a bit more clinical and should be able to get the job done on their own defensive half. Ways to go, though, and the more rounds that LFO do get from here on out, the more likelihood it will be difficult for Knights. Jim Bedroom is going to be toweling, though. First time that we've seen this site so far after the 5 rounds. Nate has been downed, by the way.
He's able to go down the hatch, but there's no one really there from LFO to support. So we could see Sogs head down main. It's risky, but it doesn't appear as if anyone on the attack is there to cut that off. I was scared a little bit of that upside down rappel near gym window, but they're not actually watching this position. So Nate will get back on his feet, and he's probably just going to stay below. He'll have a C4 in hand. He can try and play denial on that site. The hatch open gives that nice line of sight into players entering and players trying to get that plant down. Unfortunately, though, Sogs now cannot trick the wall, right? He was downstairs busy picking up Nate. Didn't have enough time to run back up. Even he wasn't fast enough to get there. So that is unfortunate for LFO. But I mean, inevitably that wall was probably going to get opened anyway, so they should be ready to deal with that.
I think the big thing now is keeping that bathroom wall up and sturdy if possible. Sogs is in there. Can Bandit trick it? Don't know how many EMP grenades Juicy does still have left. Does have the diffuser in hand. Nasty might even wide swing this too if LFO are feeling aggressive enough. Sogs with a C4 elimination onto Josh. Sajon though from the balcony is able to get one. Is immediately refragged though. 3 versus 2 in favor of the Knights after having the opening death. Now Nate is still down below, could be the kind of wild card in all of this. Sogs in bathroom. There is Nate. Although the longer this goes on, the more likelihood he might not be able to have an impact at all from that position. He's the solo. He's down below. I mean, there's not much he can really do from this spot. Juicy's going to get that diffuser down. And he's obviously given away his position down below too.
The unfortunate thing for LFO in this round is they don't have any dedicated intel gatherers on the team, so they wouldn't have had any intel in on the site to relay that to Nate to try and deny the plan. So now he needs to play the 1-on-2. Probably needs to try and go towards CC window to find the cross onto the balcony,
the
maybe
window.
even jump out con window. There is a drone there, so they probably know he's there as well. They do. Dino shuts him down. Knights take the round, and that was a little bit cleaner to what we've seen in some of the previous rounds.
The Claymore there as well. He was not getting through that window, but I like the idea. Obviously, Knights were just sort of understanding of the idea as well and did shut it out. And 2-3, they get one back, and we go to the final round of the half to see whether or not Knights can tie it up 3-3, or potentially if LFO can have an advantage going into their own attacking half after this. A reminder, of course, this is the second map of the best of 3. Knights winning out 7-4 on Coastline, which was LFO's map pick. Obviously, that indicates that this is Knights' map pick here for Clubhouse. Currently, LFO doing very well, though, all things considered.
Defenders, protect your bombs
Now we
from
head
being
back
defused by
to
attackers.
CCTV cache. Knights looking to even out the half, which on a Clubhouse attack is always pretty good to see. Again, keeping in mind that there is actually 2 hard breach bans on the board, so I was expecting the attacks to be a little bit more challenging. Knights put themselves in that position. They had the second attack ban, and look, there's been a couple of rounds that have been a little bit questionable, but I don't think that's really been off the back of the limited hard breach that they can bring to the table anyway. So they have played into it quite well. When we see the switch of sides, I'm not sure whether or not LFO will be as good, but again, they've already brought it this far, which is pretty surprising. So who knows what they'll be able to bring in that second half. But steering our concentration to this final round of the half, we are again seeing Rafters being held here by the defense. In fact, it's the duo of Mims and Nasty at the moment. Probably expecting Mims to fall back later, and then Nasty will hold this solo with the magnets and the ADS devices. And this was a hot point of contention last time this site was played. The Knights really struggled to clear it, so I'm not sure whether or not they'll push it as hard this round.
First focus for Knights is this Kennel's wall, and they'll get that open very quickly, you would think. So far, Hills hasn't been successful, but in this case, he will.
Yeah, that
Third time's the charm, though, I guess, cuz.
Yeah, that shield providing some nice cover against the concussion. Not sure if the timing was maybe off as well there for the Knights, but either way, the Knights are actually going to fall off that straight away. So yes, they didn't get the wall open, but they're also not wasting too much time trying to get it open. So that's a tick in the box for Hills. LFO now need to be aware that the Knights have given up on this position. They're now entering down below, and maybe that's how they're going to actually try and clear it. They may even re-attempt it. They do, but it gets tricked once again.
Wow.
So that's really played by Hills. And now there's only 1:30 left, and what have the Knights got to show for it? Pretty much nothing.
Well, the last 2 times we were on cache CCTV, there was no bandit tricking at all that was being successful. Although I think that was Songs that was actually playing the bandit that time around, so maybe the switch up to Hills has been successful here. Obviously it has, because Hills has been able to keep it closed until the 1:10 mark, which finally now has been opened. Or at least not really open, but a hole has been made, which at the very least does give and make it a lot harder for Hills to stop it from being opened at all now. Still a minute to go. They're all just sitting inside a cache. Jeez.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying.
5 meters, boys. 5 meters. Some distancing. Oh, Hills is so low.
You need to be really careful inside of cache. Your feet can be exposed underneath these big boxes, big containers, tables, whatever you want to call them. So only a single bullet will be enough to take him down. Yes, they are quite clumped in towards cache, but there's also no one below trying to clear this. Now they can just lob over that utility to try and deny the plan. And with only 30 seconds to go, they are starting to get mowed down. Mimslow gets taken out from below as well. They're all just rushing in towards side. It's a 3-on-3. Sogs gets flamed up. It's Hills and Nasty left to try and clutch it up.
Dino, Juicy, and Sage on for Knight. Sage with the diffuser. They're at everything you got. 10 seconds left. Hills, though, is the one that is extraordinarily low, and yet they're going to come out on top right now. Nasty was able to get Juicy as well. Dino just has to rush in. He's got 3 seconds. Unfortunately, we'll run out of time. LFO are going to win the round. They're up 4-2 after the first half. Can you believe it? These rounds have been so messy, but LFO just keep coming out on top.
Oh, wow. That is quite the half of Siege. I labeled it earlier as a bit more of a madhouse match than a clubhouse match, and it really did disappoint there in the last round. LFO super clumped up in towards the back of the site, still able to hold on, and Hills getting that massive pick in the objective. Don't know how he came out on top of that one. Maybe the 3-speed wide swing worked in his favor, but either way, LFO do get the round. They retain the lead, most importantly as well. Doesn't mean the pressure's alleviated at all. Attacking on clubhouse again with a double hard breach won't be easy, but at least they can feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that they're going toe-to-toe on the Knights map pick.
Yeah, I mean, more than comfortable. You got to be pretty happy with their performance, really. I mean, we kind of wrote them off, I think, to be truthfully honest. At the conclusion of Coastline, which was 7-4, it was quite convincing from Knights as well. They were playing some really good Siege, and it was hard to envision LFO having a better performance on Clubhouse versus Coastline, but here we are. I mean, they're getting results. They're getting round wins. They're up 4-2. But this is where they're going to be thoroughly tested now. Job done on their defense. I don't think that they would have expected more than that. But now you got to do it on your attack. And this is where it's going to be difficult against Knights.
Now, this is where they are really going to be tested. Doesn't look like the Knights are committing to a roam. So we're going to see, again, that quote-unquote more turtley play style, if you would, where they're going to try and play heavy off the denial onto the kitchen hatch. And I mean, the first time we saw this objective, it was pretty crazy in the way that one played out. The denial was a little bit questionable. The play from above was a little bit questionable. A lot of questionable plays in that round. So LFO will be looking to be a little bit cleaner in that regard. Not give away any free picks as they try and get that hatch open, because then that really gives them a greater opportunity to convert that execute.
Yeah, it was a 5 versus 3 start in favor of Knights, and LFO were defending and yet managed to claw their way back into that round, courtesy of a Dino self-kill as well with an aid, but still, nonetheless, they were able to get back into that round and ultimately win it as well, which typically you expect on Church Arsenal. I gotta say though, this would be very telling. If LFO can win this round on Church Arsenal, take a 5-2 lead, I mean, that's like, just gives me shivers like to think about that. That's going to make it so difficult for Knights. This feels like a must win because of those factors, because of the win rate you typically have on Church Arsenal. LFO went 2 for 0. 2-0. 100% win rate for them on their own defense on Church Arsenal, and Knights definitely need to do the same when you're down 2-4.
Slogs chopping up the floor. Again, trying to deny the impact trick, but Josh, I believe it is, will hit the first one off with very good success. Hatch has been slightly opened. A couple of the X-Kairos went off. So the health of the hatch has been damaged, but Josh hits that shot on to Nate. The Habana's still on the board, so they might be able to still get it open as Hills finds one back. So there's still a hard breach on the board, still a soft breach as well. Unfortunate, really, that the Thatcher and the Thermite are taken down, but look, this is still potentially winnable. It's tough, you're at that man disadvantage, but we've seen it done before.
Wasn't long ago that we saw a 5v3
start for Knights that they lost, and while they technically did have a 5v3 start in this one as well, Dino did get quickly eliminated shortly after though, so 4 versus 3 now for the time being. 30 seconds remaining though. Mims from above in kitchen is successful on eliminating Juicy, and it's now 3-on-3. And they can head in with a bit more confidence here that they can win these duels as well, because they have been doing so comfortably. Hayward, though, not going to be an easy foe to take down. Josh just sitting at the back of Arsenal. And that's going to be an easy round win in the end for Knights. Once LFO pushed in, they did meet their maker.
Looked a little bit promising then when Slogs opened up the Ashwell, rushed in, but the Knights were ready for that. Had the crossfire set up and wasn't too difficult to deal with in the end. So really back to the drawing board for LFO, but they don't need to worry about that site for at least 2 more because of the objective rotation. That means that the Knights now will attempt CCTV cache. It's a site that they themselves had mixed success on the attack, and I mean rightly so. Again, it's going to be tricky to attack without that Mav on the board, without that proficiency of the ace. That said, LFO will bring the 2 remaining hard breaches, so Habana and Thermite, still plenty to work with in that regard. Keen to see the dynamic again between that Bandit and the Thermite. Josh is bringing that denial to the board. We saw Hills have some pretty good success on the side of LFO, but it is challenging. LFO will probably do a pretty good job in clearing it, I would hope. Maybe a little bit better than the Knights did, in fact. We saw them struggle quite a bit, and it took them a while to establish that control below, despite the defense not really pressuring.
So Josh is going to take the task of Bandit. See what he can deny. Very similar offensive look of LFO that we saw from Knights. I mean, this site was the definition of messy, though. It was just chaos for the most part from both teams, really. It's not as if one looked clean and the other one was causing the confusion. Josh is going to have to be up for the task. Doesn't have the shield, which when we saw Hills Bandit tricking the Kennel's wall, did have that shield, which I think did make a small difference. Or maybe it was just the placebo effect. I don't know. Hard to really say. Hills and Nate going to combine and try and get this wall open.
Already a minute drained in this round. It's important that LFA start to get a move on here, and if they want to get the wall open, do it quickly. It shouldn't be too hard if you bring the Zofia across, because there isn't even a barricade there, nor a shield. So just throw the EMP down, concuss it. It should be pretty easy to clear. Josh is probably going to try and hold it. In fact, no. So he's already given up. He knows that the wall is going to get opened either way. In the end, not the worst. Time efficiency from LFO gets opened at about 147, so still well and truly over half the round to work with here. But this is the tricky part now. Getting the wall open is such a small step in actually winning this side on the attack. They still need to clear garage, maybe clear con below, even get control below as well if they wish. So it's only a small piece of the larger puzzle.
Yeah, and the longer that it does take to get that Kennel's wall means you have less time for the other puzzle pieces, don't you? So it does sort of have that trickle effect as Nate will get the opening frag onto Sejeon. Good start for LFO, looking to respond after losing first round of this second half. Hayward's obviously his work cut out for him here. And unfortunately, Nasty is going to take out Hayward, and it gets really difficult now for Knights. 5-on-3 in favor of LFO. 50 seconds remaining. So much time, so much of an advantage. Josh just loitering around in con. So they do have at least some defense here on the back end of the sites, but really garage is open. Kennel's wall is open. It will probably become a bit of a crossfire shootout, but with the numbers advantage, you would suspect LFO should be favored.
That's a risky position to put the plant down. Dino swings wide and is able to deny it. It was also in a great position for Juicy to throw out gas canisters uncontested to deny it for even longer. And now LFO only have 20 seconds to work with. They still have that man advantage, but players like Josh are in a great position to run out and deny the plant. Dino's still in a position to wide swing as well, but that's a great kill there onto the player inside of Con. Dino, nothing he could do. LFO, I thought they might have lost grip on that round, but they bring it back and bring it back strong.
Well, they're not going anywhere. They're not going down without a fight. They've performed admirably well on Clubhouse thus far. 3-5 now in favor of LFO. Could we see a situation where Knights still the map pick of LFO and vice versa? LFO still the map pick of Knights, and we potentially do in fact then head to Oregon, which is the decider map. And honestly, at that point, if we do head over to Oregon, I don't know which way it would swing. It's the sort of site, you know, you think we usually talk about, you know, kids' dorms and how that's the 50-50 sort of site. I can already envision LFO causing issues for Knights on that particular site as well. So Knights definitely do not want to go to Oregon. Definitely don't want to give a map over to LFO, and definitely want to try and turn it around here on Clubhouse.
I mean, I can't believe we're even still playing here, right? You look back at the results for LFO on Clubhouse. They haven't won it since they beat Wildcard on it in 6 Masters. That was so long ago. And they've actually played it, how many times since? They played it against the Knights. They lost 2-7. They lost 3-7 to Noble. They then lost 4-7 to Ferox, 4-7 to Rhythm. So their results on this map have been pretty dire. And they've already got more rounds on the board in this matchup than they have in those last 4 occasions. So I don't know what the hell's going on here. It has been, again, a little bit of a madhouse game. The Knights just not looking at their very best here, and LFO, they're capitalizing. They are playing their style. It's working. It's difficult to read into, and the Knights just are struggling a little bit to adapt to that.
It's a stark contrast to Coastline, though, where Knights just sort of powered away by the end of it. I mean, yeah, there was a bit of a fight from LFO at the very beginning, but for the most part, especially in the second half, Knights just ran away with it pretty comfortably. And ultimately, though, here in Clubhouse, this is more of an arm wrestle that LFO currently are winning. It is back and forth, though. Knights, LFO, Knights, LFO, Knights, maybe, looking to keep that trend. Otherwise, it's going to be 6-3 match point, multiple match points to LFO. If they get match point now, off the back of this gym bedroom site, I'm ready to call it.
Whoa. Gee, all right. I mean, I don't know if I really see LFO winning this round. Who knows? It is arguably one of the weakest defensive sites that we do see here in OCD.
I didn't see LFO winning many rounds, guys. So at this point, I probably expect them to win.
Oh,
they'll find a way.
Oh, that's not a bad start. Minute 40 left in the round. They get Jacuzzi wall open. Hayward down below is in a good position to play denial late round, though. He can use the open hatch for the angle and a C4. But this progression so far, not too bad from LFO. I'm liking how they're shaping up this round. They haven't lost any members as of yet. So this isn't too bad for them so far. They could convert.
I like your thought process there. No one's died. Good job.
Well, we have seen them struggle. We saw them struggle when they didn't get the opening kills on Coastline. So
it's true. It's true. We have 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining. Josh just holding out top red. I think at some point Mims is going to look to maybe try and pincer in. Sogs and Nasty over towards the balcony. So they've got multiple avenues, and that's what's going to make this potentially winnable now for LFO. Dino just sitting inside a bathroom, and is there really anything they can do to stop Nate here? I don't think so. They should be able to get this. I mean, besides being able to trick the wall, but Josh getting that frag onto Mims over towards Kennel's wall. That is going to shape up this round. He can now pick over to balcony freely, but Sogs through the barricade will be able to win that fight, although it's a short-lived advantage. Nasty and Nate actually both down at the moment. Sogs is going to at least get Nasty back up. I don't see a way to get Nate though, so it's actually more like a 4-on-2 right now in favor of Knights.
No, definitely is a 4-on-2 now. Dino confirms that kill. It's Sogs now left to run up the main stairs, and he's going to be greeted by Hayward. Still, Hayward won't win that gunfight, but look at the time. Nothing to work with in this round. The Knights will take that one pretty damn confidently, and they can finally start to build up their momentum.
You look at the win rate as well. so far here on Clubhouse in terms of getting that opening kill.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
exactly what I was going to say.
90% or something ridiculous like that. There's one round we missed, but
Even higher, right? Yeah, actually, yeah, I was going to say that out of the 9 rounds we've had so far, there's only been 1 round where the team that got the opening kill didn't convert the round. We didn't, unfortunately, record round 5, so that could be missing that round, but I mean, it really sets that trend, right? If you're getting that opening pick, very high likelihood you'll win the round, because that first round was also the crazy throw from the Knights anyway,
Yeah.
so that wasn't really representative of anything, really. So again, if you're getting that opening pick, you are in a great position. Clubhouse is just one of those maps, right? If it only takes a very small mistake to just be amplified, and if it's a kill on the board, that could be a key piece of the puzzle, whether it be opening a wall or clearing utility that's taken away from you, which really makes it difficult if you're on the defense to hold on, or if you're on the attack to progress forward.
we're back down to Church and Arsenal for Knights, which can give them a very likelihood that they tie this up to 5-5.
10 seconds
Maybe they
remaining.
just run away with this. You know, you spoke about the records that LFO have had here on Clubhouse. 7-1, 7-2, 7-3, 7-4. Well, maybe a 7-5 is next in line.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb.
Just slowly, each time they play Clubhouse, they just get a little bit better each time, but not quite able to find the win. Josh on the Legion, which I think on Church Arsenal certainly should have a bit more impact than what we saw on Cash CCTV last time we saw Legion. Dirt's going to be opened up very easily. So that's already at least one avenue that Knights have to just sort of keep someone there, keeping an eye on Dirt. It's not much to really open it up, but it means they can focus on other areas now.
Again, no roam, so all the efforts will be focused really around the main stairs and the kitchen hatch. We've seen it time and time again where getting that hatch open poses risks for both the attack and the defense. The defenders down below are trying to impact above, but we often see the attack create lines of sight to try and deny that. Of course, those lines of sight are two-way, and sometimes the defenders will get quite risky and actually peek back up. That said, though, not a whole lot of progress actually made on that side of the map so far. It feels like maybe LFO are trying to map clear at least to some extent, or at least make sure that there isn't a player lurking around. Of course, there isn't. We have the beauty of seeing through the walls, so we know through X-ray vision that there isn't. And finally, we will start hearing some sledged work being done, but that's actually Sogs above. So we're a minute 30 into this round, and it doesn't feel like a whole lot of pressure's been applied towards site at all here.
With 20 seconds remaining. Still quite a lot of time. It's still basically about a minute, right? We see Church Arsenal typically, if there's about 20 seconds left, that's when teams will drop down and see what they can do in terms of a bit lucky. Haywood would still with that C4 available. Knights on the pulse. And it's still 5v5 though. At the very least for LFO, if you're going to be in this situation, having 5 up's fine. You do want to find that pick though onto a member of Knights. If they're going to have 5 up when you eventually drop down, it's not going to bode well. It's really just RNG, hope and pray. Win your flick shots and hope everything goes well. That's not going to help though, losing Nate to Josh. Pushing through dirt, like that early?
There's only 30 seconds left, and I'm still not quite sure where this pick is going to come from. Unfortunately, Nate being dropped, again, just puts the odds well and truly against LFO. If you lose that opening engagement, you're very likely to lose the round. And we can see LFO, they're probing around, trying to find this entry, but there's nothing there. And with 10 seconds left, I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Well, they're just going to get lucky right now as they start to push in. Hopefully they can win these frags, these 1v1s. Even then, no, the fight is obviously going to go on for so long. Hills has to stop, try and put that diffuser down, but he's got the pressure mounting on him. Knights will win it out based on time. To the credit of LFO, they actually were winning a lot of those 1v1s, and they got it down like a 1v2 or a 2-on-2 at the very end of that. If they had it just pushed in 10 seconds earlier, guys, I think they actually managed to win that round.
Yeah.
Well, at least would have had a bit of a shot.
Yeah, it's difficult to tell. Again, it just feels like, I don't know, maybe LFO are trying to map clear at least to some extent, or at least make sure that there isn't a player lurking around. If they had it just pushed in 10 seconds earlier, guys, I think they actually managed to win that round. Yeah, it's difficult to tell. Again, it just feels like the opening pick went the way of the Knights. They were able to play more comfortably in towards site, and they would have known that if it comes down to a trade-off late into the round, just that one-man advantage alone is significantly heavily favoring them to win the round. And yes, you could argue it got a little bit dicey. Maybe LFO could have won that round, but time wasn't on their side either. And unfortunately, that is what cost them. So 5-5 the scoreline now. Xenox, the Knights, they are building some momentum now. It looked good for LFO, and we said that if they got one more round, headed it to match point, they'd be a great chance at maybe being able to close it out. But now the Knights are one round away from getting that match point. And I have to say, if the Knights get it here, they'll probably be able to head back up to CCTV and close it out. Actually, sorry, head to bedroom and close it out.
5 seconds
I
remaining.
do agree. The only thing that's, I'm going to say this though, is that LFO don't have to worry about Church Arsenal for the remainder of the regular rounds. So essentially Cash, CCTV, and Gym Bedroom will need to be won for Knights. It's either going to send it to OT or give them the map. So one or the other. So it does give LFO a chance here on the attack.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
Church Arsenal completely 100% win rate for both teams on their defense. So it was always going to be a tough ask in that previous round. But Cash CCTV, on the other hand, has been very, very vulnerable. From just a quick glance, it looks like it's 2-2. So a 50% strike rate isn't so bad. Gym Bedroom as well, also 50% strike rate. So, I mean, ultimately from this series alone, there's a 50% chance that LFO might be able to get something here.
Similar defensive setup here on the wall again from Josh, but on this occasion, actually electing to bring that deployable shield, and that might be able to protect him from the concussion lifeline, and he might be able to trick the wall. It's still a little bit iffy if it will actually be pulled off, and maybe LFO actually are going to try and clear that shield before, or maybe even just completely clear him below using explosives. Josh, probably aware of that, a little bit scared, and is actually going to fall back. So that's some good game sense, some good intuition from him. Just juggling around, not standing too still, as he knows that being hit from below will definitely hurt him quite a bit. He's also mindful of any drones that come through that drone hole. The concussion nade comes through, but it is timed perfectly on the second one, so he has to fall back. Well played there from LFO. Minute 20 left now to work the rest of the site.
I mean, typically though for Knights, they had about, what, 2 minutes? So it's almost like a 50-second difference. They've still got to deal with Hayward as well up at Rafters. And they don't have much time to really mess around here, which might cause them to sort of funnel in a bit quick. Might give Hayward a chance, and he might get a bit antsy and want to peek. This is concussed, but that's okay. He goes back down. He is peeking this though, and he is looking to potentially find a member of LFO. Slowly, he's slightly though, avoiding these nades. He's just ducking and weaving up at Rafters right now. At the moment though, successful. 40 seconds left, they haven't cleared him.
Question is how they're going to clear him, and
Never mind.
the answer will be bullets. Nasty puts a couple into his head, and that's enough to say good night. 30 seconds now left on the board, and we know the opening kill so critical in this matchup. LFO in the box seat to convert this round. They have a nice setup now to get in towards the default plant. Unfortunately, it's a 4-on-4. The wall also isn't open, so they'll have to vault over the window. A little bit of a scary position to be in, especially with that smoke still on the board, but it is winnable here for the attack.
10 seconds left remaining. Nate's got the diffuser. He's going to start to stick it now. Diamond swings out through the doorway, just keeps spraying down, has the bullets to do so. Juicy finds a kill, at least for that gas canister. Going to stop the diffuser though. Knights will win the round, and they break the streak of the opening frag, binding the round win. Despite the fact that LFO got that kill through Nasty onto Hayward, Knights still win the round. Knights are on match point.
And it really came down to the fact that LFO didn't have a whole lot of time to set up properly for the plant. They didn't have the wall open, which meant they were then forced to vault in, and they were then slowed down by the smoke canisters. And then that did leave the weakness over towards that AC bulk or the con bulk. Easy run out there for the Knights. Plant denied. And by that stage in the round, there's nothing you can do to pick it back up and get it back down, because there simply just wasn't any time on the board. That means now, of course, that the Knights have match point, one round away from closing out Clubhouse, closing out the best of 3 as well. Important to keep in mind, of course, that LFO do have a second chance here. they will play later today if they are unsuccessful, or I mean, even if you are successful,
Pretty sure
you'll
they
be playing again later
actually
today,
play the
but-
next match.
Yeah, so I mean, let's say the Knights win this round and win the series. I don't think LFO's confidence will be hampered too much. I wouldn't say it's necessarily been a devastating performance from them at all. And if they do end up losing and take on Okami, I still think they'll put up a pretty good battle.
The best part about winning this game is you guarantee yourself playing day number 3, winning this series. Whereas obviously for LFO, if they do lose this, they have to win the next match if they want to show up tomorrow and confirm themselves a top 3 placing. Of course, Kami is probably watching and waiting to see who they're going to be playing, which I think at this point, you would think it's going to be LFO. Although LFO just have to win this gym bedroom site, and well, they can send it to overtime, and who knows what will happen from there. Sajon's also low, so we'll see how this plays out. But the last time we were on this site, they were able to get the jacuzzi wall opened relatively quickly. Had a decent little game going on. They were looking good. There it is again, 2 minutes on the clock.
Bomb has been located.
But it's everywhere else that they've got to perfect a bit better.
No one from the Knights really playing into this either. No point over peaking this. Don't want to give away
The bomb diffuser.
that first frag. There's no real need, no real reason to contest it. LFO still have to work the bathroom wall, get any denial off that before they can actually even think realistically about hitting and execute. That said, Hayward's actually going to play on the main stairs, so he's in a great position to deny a rush through, but needs to be mindful of Nasty. Nasty does hit the shot, though. That's a big one for LFO.
It's a repeat of the last round. Nasty with the opening frag onto Hayward, getting that repeat. That might, though, be a curse potentially. Dino just trying to stop that wall from being opened. Was successful with the nade. One throw back. Nate's just going to push in now. Look for a frag. Into bedroom through gym. He's just checking from below with that drone as well. Minute and 5 seconds remaining. As gas canisters now from Juicy can be thrown out. Hills sitting on this balcony. This is going to be a messy finish to this round potentially. Knights down a player. St. John's low. It's not going to be clean from Knights. LFO still have a chance to be clean themselves.
45 seconds now left on the clock. Knights still in some decent positions. Sage in a key one, but so low on HP, will need to be traded out if he is taken off the board. LFO now need to consolidate these positions. Probably need to send it quite deep in towards site. Nate finds one. Ooh. Nasty as well. It's a double for him. It's a 2-on-5. I don't think the Knights will win this round. We should be heading to OT.
Well, I definitely will be heading to OT.
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Really not much of a chance Josh is going to have sitting over in cash, and Mims will put an end to the round and will send us to overtime. 6-6. Credit to LFO. They've certainly come to play here on Clubhouse. And you've got to give them the respect where it's deserved. I mean, Knights looked like they had found that gear, that switch. They had won 5 of 7 prior to that last round. LFO stop the rot, send it to OT. Knights, though, will remain on defense, and of course, we head down to Church and Arsenal.
LFO on attack here in OT. Tough situation to find yourself in. They only won 2 out of 6 in that second half. So the argument could be made that they're going to really struggle here.
Attackers need to locate and defuse.
Who knows, though? They are yet to actually successfully attack the basement objective, and OT always does strange things, so this might actually be the first time they do win it in this matchup. Again, even if they do lose it, if they're able to successfully defend, then of course Knights need to head to a weaker site, and in fact they have lost. The Knights, in fact, have lost Cash and Jim at least once in that second half, so even if LFO don't necessarily convert this round, they're not necessarily 100% out of this matchup.
10 seconds to go.
Oh, of course not. They'll have their own defense
5 seconds
play on as well. This is by no means over. It's certainly been a closer affair than Coastline was. There were hints of it on Coastline, though, in the opening 3-4 rounds. It was back and forth, but Knights pulled away. And it looked like maybe Knights were going to pull away as well towards the end here on Clubhouse, but did lose that match point. Did lose that chance. Still, throughout all of it, though, the opening frag has been so impactful. If you can find it, your chances of winning the round in this matchup is just about almost guaranteed. Not quite, but goes a long way. Here on Church Arsenal, if LFO were to win this round, you think that they will need to get this opening frag.
Hayward on the pulse below, gathering some intel. I mean, it's probably nothing the Knights don't really expect to see, or nothing catching the Knights off guard, rather. Doesn't seem to be anything too crazy from LFO. They're just going through their routine checklist, getting these hatches open. Of course, the Moto hatch being a little bit easier than the kitchen hatch, which hasn't even been worked out at all yet so far by LFO. They have been leaving it quite deep into these rounds to go for it. If they even go for it at all, I mean, maybe they won't on this occasion. Still time to work with, but if they want to, they need to go pretty quickly. It can often take up to a minute to even get that kitchen hatch open, and so far, nothing at all has been done to pressure it.
Well, the last time we saw the defense hold on Church Arsenal for Knights, LFO left it to the very last second. It was like a 10-second timer when they pushed in. And even though they were actually winning those duels, unfortunately, they did run out of time and ultimately did lose the round. They have to make sure they don't fall into the same trap here. Now they'll start to open up kitchen, but there's only a minute remaining. The other factor too was Nate pushing through dirt last time. Did spell disaster. I don't think he's going to be wanting to do the same again here. 45 seconds left. Do you maybe go slightly early? Maybe now, especially since you got that opening kill onto Dino. Just opens the way here for LFO. They win this, they'll have match point here in OT. Lots of work still to be done. Nate's low as well, and he does have the diffuser.
30 seconds now. Sage finds one back. It's Josh! A team kill for the Knights. Josh does find the pick. Hayward as well, so it might not have mattered all that much, but they are dropping like flies on towards site, and it's Mims to cover. This man is the man you want to cover this kind of plant. I don't think Juice is going to be able to down hills in time. The plant does go down. 45 seconds on that defuse. Josh and Juice need to retake site.
Now Hills is down now. The second nade from Josh will be successful. Does have a double kill. You could almost count it technically as a triple kill after killing his teammate Sejon. Mims will take down Josh. Forces Juicy into the 1 versus 1. Swings out. Unsuccessful. Mims is low. Won't take much to eliminate him. Juicy not moving far from the diffuser. Doesn't quite win the initial peak, but because Mims was so low, it didn't take much for Juicy to then just redirect the crosshair. Knights hold on by the skin of their teeth. Look how low in the end Juicy was. Church Arsenal successfully defended.
Whoa. Sweaty palm stuff for the Knights. LFO probably as well. So close to clutching that one out. I thought there was a small window that Mims could have capitalized on and might have been able to find 2 picks. He did find 1, but unfortunately, only being 1 armor and having low HP did prove costly in the end. That said, though, we theory crafted before this would probably be the case on the balance of just statistically how the map's been playing out so far. And LFO now heading back downstairs. We should see them win this, you would hope. They managed to defend it both times in regulation. So if they can again continue that trend, that does allow them to, you know, attack one of the weaker sites for the Knights when we switch sides again.
I mean, you say that, but I think you'd still rather be defending. When it's 7-7, ultimately, I think there's more pressure on LFO to obviously make something happen, to be successful on their attack. We still have to get to that point, though. They're still going to get the job done here on Church Arsenal, which, if we think all the way back to round number 1 of this matchup here on Clubhouse, it was a 5-on-3 advantage to Knights. It was a flawless, clean round. They opened up everything. They found those 2 opening picks. Everything was going perfect. And we thought maybe this is how the whole map would go. And then they just balls it up. Dino ended up killing himself with a nade. They just all dropped down at once. They all died at once, and it just was the most bizarre round that they had actually lost. Probably still to this point on Clubhouse. So they have shown us, Knights, that they can do everything right except the execution. This time now, as long as they execute perfectly, they might just be able to end it here and now and win 8-6.
Well, looks like Sogs is committing to a solo roam. Not much really to help him up there, but he might be able to do some disruption as the Knights try to take that floor. That said, though, Sogs actually... Oh, I thought he was going back down, but in fact, he's heading all the way to the top floor. No, he's trying to find a pick over towards dirt. In fact, Sogs, I don't even know what he's doing. He does go back towards site. Probably the smartest decision, the safest decision at that. Picks up a drone for his troubles as well. He can place that somewhere to gather some nice info, which is always handy to have. Not a bad start here for LFO. 2 minutes into the round, the Knights still yet to really do a whole lot of work above, but Haywood on that cue will start to break the floor. We've seen them, as you mentioned, Xenox be quite clean early round and late round, but that said, Haywood by a C4, I believe, will be downed. Not killed though, so it's not the end of the world.
Bomb located by attackers.
Of course, they won't actually have that information. He was down, now picked back up, but he's low for the remainder of the round. A minute and a half remaining, and also just that down buys a lot more time as well. And now Haywood has to sort of make up for lost time. Starts putting the pressure onto the kitchen floorboards. See if whether or not they can find a pick. Risky. He even loses more health, although at that point, with how low he was already at, I don't think it really mattered. Trying to sledge that nade down below. Now Dino with the X-Kairos to open up kitchen hatch. 1 minute on the dot. Overtime match point, and he's going to find a frag onto the unsuspecting Mims, and what a player to get rid of. Arguably LFO's best player here in the playoffs thus far. Nate still holding in dirt. Opening frag. Will the trend continue for Knights? Usually they do win when they get it.
They did lose that 5-on-3 though. I'm sure they'll be thinking about that a little bit, or at least having some quick flashbacks, but no time really to dwindle on it as Josh finds the wallbang onto Hills. It's falling apart here for LFO. Juice is in sight, getting that plant down. The coverage is there from above. Will it prove enough? I think it will. Josh drops Sogs. Plant is secured. It's a 2-on-5 retake.
And Nate's down in dirt as well. He's not going to get back up again. Nasty is the solo for LFO in a 1 versus 5. I think this is it. It's been a very valiant effort from LFO, but their time is up here on Clubhouse. Unless Nasty has one for the highlight reel, but he's not going to be able to. Knights secure a nail biter on Clubhouse, or as Guz likes to now call it, the Madhouse. 8-6. It was certainly a hard-fought victory for the Pittsburgh Knights, but they will move on to face a wild card in the winners final. And for LFO, while they're not out of the playoffs yet, they dropped down, and we'll be seeing them again very shortly as they will play Akami.
That was a much more competitive series than I think most people expected, or at least myself did, especially off the back of Coastline. It was very dominant in favor of the Knights, but then LFO seemingly out of nowhere put up a really good contest on Clubhouse. I didn't think that their playstyle would be very compatible against the Knights, but for whatever reason, the Knights just struggled to read into them a little bit, but it felt like towards the end, they did gain that traction. They knew what to expect a little bit more, and then the scoreboard really reflects that in 8-6.
Yeah, deserved winners, obviously, in the end for Pittsburgh Knights. Credit, though, of course, to LFO for making it a match to remember, really. They put up a very, very good effort, 8-6. They had their chances, of course, to even potentially win it. Send us to Oregon, where who knows, anything could have potentially happened. But, you know, looking at the series as a whole, it was a pretty clean Coastline, 7-4. I think Knights would have been very happy with that, considering that it was, of course, LFO's map pick. Saying that on the flip, obviously there's some things to work on, because if Knights play like that against Wildcard on Clubhouse, they're certainly not going to get away with the win there. Regardless, let's go to one of my favorite interviewees, maybe my actual favorite, Enigma. Unfortunately, mate, you don't come away with the win this time around. It was a tough one. Coastline probably didn't go the way you would have wanted, but you've got to be happy with the way that Clubhouse ended up playing out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just Coastline, like, if you compare yesterday's game on Coastline versus Elevate to today, we're just, again, not doing things that we should have just been doing. Again, like, people just, if you notice, there's a lot of solo stuff happening where the team wasn't really effectively pushing together, where that's a really strong map for us, you know? So when it came to that, and then when it had the split of 2-4 to their side, it's really just a matter of just, we weren't there, and then Clubhouse came out on the other hand. Clubhouse, I mean, again, there were plenty of rounds where just simple things like putting claymores on runouts or, you know, just holding a flank effectively, you know, communication things. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Knights just played better than us. So hopefully, you know, we'll see what happens for the next series, of course.
Yeah, I mean, let's start talking about the next series. Don't want to dwell on this one too much. You guys basically, within the next, 20-30 minutes or however long that break will be, will be taking on Okami. What are you going to be saying to the boys? It's only a short sort of break to try and right these wrongs that you might have had in this series.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a matter of like the strat, it's more about the communication. We'll just have a chat and we'll like talk about what we did right and what we did wrong. And, you know, not really look at the strat too much, but just look at the way we were playing together as a team. Because there's plenty of times where just everybody was overcoming over each other and not really focusing on what the task at hand was, whether or not, you know, it was to open a wall or to get Thatchers down here, blah, 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 you know? So we're just going to kind of take a break, you know, 10 minutes break, get away from it all, come back, and then have a discussion from there. And then just reset, because, again, we're still not out. So we could still make it into that top 3 spot. So we'll see.
Obviously, as you said, you're not out. You do get that second chance now against Okami. Is it difficult, though, that, you know, you basically finish one match and then you got to now play a completely different opponent? Is it difficult to sort of strap for 2 teams? Because you kind of almost don't want to strap for them, because it almost feels like then you're not giving yourselves that chance to win against Knights.
I don't think it's I mean, like, you can only strat so much. You genuinely can only strat so much, like counter strat another team. You know, it's, again, I'm more focused about us and what we can do versus what Okami can do. You know, if we worry too much about them, then we don't rectify the issues that we've faced at hand ourselves. So we need to more worry about that. And I mean, Okami are a fantastic team, of course, and we can't just, you know, let that get by ourselves. But of course, if we just rectify the issues that we just faced just then, and then, you know, come into the next series and bring it out, we'll be fine, I think. I really do think that. So we'll see what happens.
Perfect response, mate. As always, best of luck in the series to come up very shortly.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
It's the right way to look at it, especially if you're not sure. Are you going to be playing Okami? Are you not going to be playing Okami? At the end of the day, focus on yourself, and hopefully then the rest will take care of itself. But it's going to be a tough ask. Okami definitely showed good promise against Wildcard. So ultimately, you know, I think even during that match, we were both saying that could be the potential grand final showdown, provided Okami get through LFO, then get through Knights, etc., etc. So it's going to be difficult for LFO. Can they do it, guys? That's the question. We'll have to find out soon.
Yeah, it's no doubt that the Knights was going to be a tough game, but you could make a very fair argument that Okami will be an even tougher opponent to take down. So I love the fact that Enigma is looking internally, trying to focus on what they can do to improve. It's been their mentality for the entire season, and we have seen them grow quite a bit in the back end. Not convinced personally that it's enough to take down Okami, but who knows? They could put up a really good fight like they did against the Knights.
I've got our second interviewee ready to go. Should be pretty happy with that performance ultimately. Although, Dino, in the end, you did get pushed quite heavily on Clubhouse. Was that a bit of a surprise for you guys?
For sure, especially on attack. We did so much mistakes. Strip club got 3 of us. That was a big throw. Garage take for Cash, another big throw. I don't know. For our defenses, I feel like we're pretty good. It's just in the beginning we took some time to read how they were gonna play, especially off how they just played on Coastline. But after some rounds, we started to read into it, and then we were able to close up the round of the game at the end.
Yeah, you mentioned there that you found it a little bit tricky to read into LFO. In the interview yesterday, Digital from Elevate said that he found it really difficult as well. Is LFO genuinely one of, if not the hardest team to sort of read into because they look like they're just running around doing crazy stuff sometimes.
Yeah, they're random, very random, very random. So we have to adapt on the go every single time, especially against LFO.
Yeah.
Looking forward now, though, you got a very difficult matchup, of course, against Wildcard. Fortunately, you still got the double chance, I guess, as well. What are you guys looking to gain out of that match, considering it's not the grand final? You've got that double chance. What's the mindset going into it?
2-0, 100%. We're gonna go in. We're gonna play our all. We're gonna try to win 2-0, and then we're gonna try to have a nice rest for tomorrow's final.
Lastly, before you I let you go, I just wanted to ask quickly about Coastline. Were you guys surprised by that pick, and were you ready for it?
We weren't surprised, and we were ready for it.
Easy. Well, I don't know. That's about it, mate. Best of luck in your match to come.
Thank you very much.
Short, sweet, straight to the point from Dino. Like his name, but ultimately, Knights were just too good. They were too good on Coastline, and they were better in the clutch and better executionally on Clubhouse in the end. And maybe you guys, there is something about LFO and their randomness, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know how Okami are going to deal with it shortly. We'll have to wait and see as we have the bracket on screen now. Pittsburgh Knights and Wildcard. Is there a realistic chance for the Knights to win that match? That is what I am thinking. I don't know if the Knights, if they have the confidence that Dino has, easy 2-0 or whatever he said, well, maybe they'll be able to put up a really good fight. I'm not too sure. I'm not convinced necessarily that the Knights are favourites at all heading into that matchup, but I think they'll put up a good fight. Yes, they had some issues there on Clubhouse, but let's be honest, Wildcard are not going to be playing that same play style as LFO.
It's the right mindset to have, though. You got to think that you're better than your opponent, that you're going to be able to beat your opponent. Obviously, though, I think they can say, they probably wouldn't want to say it on broadcast, but that obviously they would respect Wildcard and know that it is going to be a very difficult matchup for them. Although, of course, the game to come even before that is going to be Okami versus LFO, which ultimately, guys, is going to say goodbye to one of our LFO teams.
Yeah. Can LFO improve upon what they started to build this afternoon? It was a little bit of a slow start there for Coastline, but it felt like in the back end there on the second map, they were playing pretty well. Maybe they're leaning a little bit too much into this randomness, and Okami will shut that down. But that said, I'd say both of these teams at times can sort of play this more fluid, random play style. So to see them sort of clash head to head, it could make for a pretty good spectacle, not skeptical. And we might even go all three maps.
Potentially. Well, we're going to go to a break. That's going to be us done for the day, though. Fortunately, we've got two lovely other gentlemen who will be taking care of the broadcast for the remainder of the day. So stay tuned. When we come back, it's going to be Okami versus LFO.